Anyway, good to see you all. Hello again. I'll give every one who is available a chance to join the stream if you have the time. So usually maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll get going. I would also like somebody when you get a chance to confirm that the stream and the audio is good to go. I think it is. We've been kind of working through some issues. I've also been working on connecting StreamYard, and I've been trying to connect it actually. And I don't know why it won't do that. So I'm still trying to do that. Let me see what happens now that I'm live, if it'll do anything. It doesn't give me the option it's supposed to give me on StreamYard. So I'm trying to set this up here. Maybe if I hit create now, it wants a title, but will it make another stream? See, it's not clear here. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Weird. I'll keep working on it. Maybe I'll check with some of you who are more familiar with it. But if I can get it going, we'll have people here. Okay. So I have an account. I think it's ready, but for some reason, I'm having some. It looks like I'm new with it. Problems connecting the StreamYard to the stream because I didn't create the stream inside StreamYard. That could be part of the problem. But what I looked up told me I should still be able to go live in StreamYard. That hasn't been happening yet, though. Either way, I will let you know once that's set up to go. So here's what we're going to do. I appreciate you joining if you have time. It's a very important subject. Now, we've talked about, someone give me, yeah, okay, everything's good. Appreciate that. I'll say hi to everyone in a moment. This is going to be a very important stream, okay? As you know, we all of them are, but this one here I've set up in a way to hopefully give clarity and understanding to all credible views and positions and the reasons supporting them. If you disagree, okay, it'll take me about an hour. It won't take long. We're going to read John chapter 12, the whole chapter. We'll focus on parts, but we're going to read the whole thing for just context. We're going to read the whole thing of Isaiah 6. It's not that long. And then we're going to read the part of Isaiah chapter 52 and all of 53, which also isn't very long. So I believe, okay, I believe two things with respect to this subject. I can convince you that my position is the most credible that is supported by the text I just referenced, those chapters primarily, and the particulars within them. Okay? I believe you'll see that my position is the best supported based on the evidence from the texts in question, John, Isaiah. I believe I will be able to convince you of that. If you disagree, rather than tell me, so let's say I convince you that my position is maybe 70%. We'll use, this isn't meant to be a perfect analogy, of course, but to give you an idea. Let's say you're convinced about 7 out of 10 of the things that positions I say and the supports I give. And the other 3 you think are more credible and in support of another position, whether it be Trinitarian or other Unitarian. Well, I'll get into it later if I need to. But so I'm not. I do believe in the preexistence of Jesus, but I believe he gave up that preexistence in the form of a God to live as a man. We might talk about that a little bit, and I will be talking a lot about Philippians 2 in the future for sure, but it will come up a little bit. I believe that if you claim 3 out of the 10 positions I claim, again, this is an analogy, not meant to be perfect, but so you understand what I'm talking about and asking you for. I'd like to hear those 3. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get everyone up on StreamYard. It looks like I don't know. I'm getting a YouTube StreamYard kind of crossover communication. When one's not said, we'll work on it. Either way, this is not hard, okay? I'm getting StreamYard set up. I'm going to try to make it so I'd love to have anyone on. Now, this shouldn't be hard, okay? If 3 out of the 10 things roughly that I say you think I'm wrong on, and some other position is correct, then I want you to just put it down. Hey, just number 1, you said this, or this position stronger, right? Verse, what it says, why I'm wrong. You should be able to do that in less than 1,000 characters, right? 500. I don't know. It kind of adds up, I know. But this shouldn't be too hard. Either what I'm showing you from these 3 chapters of the Bible, basically, a little bit more of Isaiah 52, 53, but basically, there's not a lot here that if I say that's wrong, you shouldn't be able to say, hey, no. When you said this verse meant that, or this is what this point, you were wrong. Here's why. That's not hard. If you can't do that, I don't think you either really believe your position or you have one that's worth defending. It's as simple as that. I'll stay as long as I have to and let you post as much as you want, okay? If you're that incompetent that you can't isolate one or more errors in my position tonight, if you can't isolate one or more with a fair state of brevity, let's say 2 to 3 times Twitter, X, I think that's fair. What? That's like, so about 500, a little less than 500, I think. Either way, that's nice. This shouldn't be hard, okay? It's a very specific subject. What is John talking about when he refers to Isaiah seeing Jesus' glory and speaking about him? That's it. We want to know, as we read these chapters, John 12, Isaiah 6, Isaiah 52, 53, won't take long. If you can't handle this, you can't handle it. You won't. We don't need to talk, okay? We've already taken care of all the views and positions. Everything out there right now is recycled position. There's nothing new. I've read it all. I've seen it all. They're liars. Anyone actively supporting Sam Shamoon, you shouldn't have to hesitate more than 2 seconds to know that person's gone. Does it invalidate every single thing they say? No, but trust me, I'm right here. Sam knows I'm here. All his people know I'm here. If you can't put down one or more, okay, you get to write, right? You don't have to, I'll try to get you on video, but some of you don't even want to do that. And Sam won't even have you on his video, or you don't even know what you're talking about. But yet you keep recycling the things he's talking about. That means you're crazy, okay? And people need to start to recognize this. Some young people, they're too stupid. It's hard for them to figure out what Sam got away with for decades with Protestants, then Catholics, and Eastern Orthodox and other Orthodox. They were all fooled. They all bought into him. That should tell everybody all you need to know about these pagans. When they ask you who gave you that Bible, why don't you ask them first, why'd you give it to us? And see what they say, and we'll go forward. There's so much they don't know or even understand. But that's not what we came to discuss tonight. It's just related. Sam gets a whole bunch of things wrong. He doesn't understand the Holy Spirit, doesn't understand nothing. He just falls headlong into lies, doesn't understand John 16, none of it. Gets it all wrong. So he lies. Now, we're not going to focus on him tonight. That's what I was going to say earlier before we get started. The subject is similar to one we've discussed. I debated Dr. White over it. I've written about it. I've gone back and forth with Sam and his minions over it. It's real simple. They just don't believe the Bible, okay? They believe in Trinitarianism. It's a later doctrine that redefines the word God and all these different people, the three who are part of the Trinity, and others outside of it, in a way that's not in the Bible. Angels in this case. Either way, they mostly contradict each other, as you're seeing today. It's very obvious if you're a part of any of these groups, right? What are you doing, right? What's happening? So let's try to focus here, right? You should not be confused about certain people or certain teachings anymore. Now, because of people like Sam and others who keep lying, it does affect people, confuse them, but if you can't figure it out, right? This is 3 chapters of the Bible we're going to read. I'm going to explain my view. And if you don't think reading these 3 subject chapters that contain all the relevant verses, most of them the specific ones, is enough for a person to understand the Bible, I don't think you think any part of it is understandable. To me, it's actually very easy and clear. In fact, I'm even more convinced as I sit here than I've ever been. Of course, I've written about this in my books. I've published a separate paper that's being updated and republished pretty soon as part of a collection of essays. So that aside, though, everything I've written already, I stand by 100%, right? Unless there's any obvious mistakes I've made. I'm talking about conclusions, positions. You're going to see tonight everything I've been saying, I believe, is the best, is in support of the best position, which is mine. Not the watchtowers, which I've also supported and think is possible, right? Whereas you're going to see Jesus could be one of the spirits, angels in heaven with the Father. In fact, if you think about it in ways where, right, even contemporaneous with people like Philo, a Middle Platonist Jew, he didn't believe any of the appearances in the Old Testament were real. No one ever saw God. Just like we believe, only a little bit different with Moses and how the angels represent him. He believed in every one of those cases, God put an idea in your mind of the vision and of him, and that's how you saw it. In many cases, that is true of what we read in the Bible. Someone's having a vision, and so it's not always clear what parts of the vision, if it's a vision, are real or representative or still based on something we can talk about like we're going to tonight. So we're going to go ahead and assume that we'll set aside, at least from my position, the potential possibility that I still hold to. It would be the only other possible view, but I think you're going to see tonight that also is impossible based on what I'm going to show you, just as the Trinitarian view is even more so. But I have something even more clear, I think, that you'll see that will establish clearly. This is talking about the glory of Jesus as a man, all the way through to and including his death and resurrection. But it's not always so, it's often, as you're going to see when we get to Isaiah 52, 53, that they're all kind of brought together in ways where that's in the terms for glory, verbs and nouns are even used of those different states in which he as a man gave up the glory of God, as I'm going to show you. And it even states that they did not see and took on the form of a servant that had no glory that was obvious to humans in ways where they were blinded by God so that they wouldn't believe, and he would only let those whom he wanted to believe see, like Isaiah. And he saw that glory, he wrote about him, and that's what John said happened. Now, Trinitarians and even Watchtower people want to say that happened in Isaiah 6, when Isaiah saw Yahweh lifted up in this vision, this glory. Okay, well, even if that was the case, as I've said before, in writing and in video, we already know that Jesus is the imprint of the Father's hypostasis in Hebrews 1:3, hypostaseos, charactertes hypostaseos, plus he's the apalgosma, the outshining of his glory, and he's the only begotten God, and he has the glory of an only begotten, and he's the one who reveals the Father to us. No one has ever seen God. The Father is God. He's not a person of God, and there are other persons who are also God like him. That's later Trinitarianism. In the Bible, the Father is God, always, unless it's referring to someone representatively like the angels we were just talking about and are talking about, or human beings even like Moses, or others who may be gods in a different way like Satan, a real living spirit who has powers over natural elements, even according to the Bible, Book of Job, and can appear deceptively in ways where, well, he caused it all, didn't he? So is he a real God or not? The Bible says he's a son, or refers to him as a God. He is a real living spirit with powers given to him by God. The sons of God are gods without breaking scripture, according to Jesus in John 10, quoting Psalm 82. So everyone keeps looking at this in the wrong way. You keep looking at it in the pagan way because of the convenience, I believe, and what people would have to give up. Right? I don't have to give up anything. I just believe it because it's true. And I've had to endure a lot because of it. Other people have too. But the fact is, there's no reason to make these conclusions anymore. It's very obvious how these terms were used and what they meant and what they referred to in the context of the writings we talk about. Yes, we're aware of different developments of thought, both contemporaneous like Philo and later. But that doesn't change how they're actually presented in the Bible. Now, when it comes to Isaiah 6, so we already know the Son is this representative image of God's glory, the thing we see because no one has seen God. The Father, that's God, right? There doesn't say person of God, and other persons are seeable, which wouldn't make sense anyway because they don't even have the same glory. One's the Father's glory that's not only begotten, not that of an only begotten, and wasn't given to him before the founding of the world, John 17. 1 through 22. So none of this is said of the Father's glory. It all is consistent with what we're saying and what these terms mean, like character, in these documents and during these times, even in people like Philo, whether they have a similar cosmology with the Bible or not. The words mean the same thing. As we've been telling you all, son means son, firstborn means firstborn, defined 4 times explicitly for people who just can't seem to figure it out. No, these terms never mean what they actually mean because what? The New Testament writers and other people before Nicaea and a little time after the first century couldn't figure it out? I don't think so. It looks like they figured it out just fine and we go with their writings. You gave them to us, right? Well, why'd you do that? Oh, to see if you were right? Great. We've done that. So you shouldn't have a problem then, right? Because you had the writings, and what? We'll skip past Ignatius for now. And what? We'll skip past Origen for now. What happened? Right, you still don't follow them. You know who that sounds like, pagans? Every one of you, especially all of you who ever accepted Sam Shamoun and promoted him because of your paganism and your shared insecurity over your false doctrine. Yeah, so I challenge you to listen to this stream, all of it. We're not going to get into Sam and all of his side issues. I mentioned him because he's relevant. He talks about this all the time. But we don't need to get into all the other stuff all the time. I do that with him because he does it all the time. And guess what? Protestants, Catholics, ortho-pagans made him a problem in our time. And now they've all seen what we told them from the beginning, and they still act like what? Oh, they didn't know him. What, Sam? I never know. Okay. So we know we don't trust you guys. That's obvious, just like the Trinity being a non-biblical teaching. So what is Isaiah 6 teaching? What are we talking about tonight? All right. 3 chapters of the Bible. Are you ready? We're going to read them. And then I'm going to try to attach the StreamYard that I got right here. If I can't do that either way, we're going to read what you got. If you can't write one thing or more about something I say that's wrong or ignore, that doesn't support my position and supports yours or someone else's, there's nothing for you to say, is there? Now, if you do, and you put something down, and you make a good point, then I will acknowledge it, and we'll go forward from there. And if you're someone who wants to take this issue elsewhere, or on a StreamYard time, if I can do it tonight, or else, fine. You have to show me that you can at least document one or more problems with what I say reading these 3 relevant chapters. Why am I wrong? I'm giving you the evidence, okay? I'm not saying disprove me and not giving you evidence, okay? I believe that's what you're doing in several ways. But either way, I'm giving you my evidence from all 3 of those chapters. So I'm asking you, if you disagree with me, to show that. Hey, you got this wrong. It can't be that hard, and you have a credible position. If you can't do that, no one, you don't have a credible position. Okay, let's just acknowledge that you maybe have a possible, like Watchtower, only your Trinity, which is even less credible than theirs because they're at least interpreting it, like I did earlier, with respect to the type of glory that would be seen, if it's that kind of heavenly, majestic vision glory, or at least the representative apalgasma character glory. Okay, so it's either what I'm going to argue for tonight, or it's that based on the evidence. If you disagree, show me. I'm here. Right? You can't be that hard. If it is, forget it. Right? If it's that hard for all of you to find one problem with what I say in reading these chapters and applying my arguments as I'm going to, then I'm going to assume I don't have a problem. I'm asking you. I'm trying to make this a simple stream with as little, intensity as possible, but I want to make it clear also. Okay, we're not here to waste our time, right? I don't like having to go over this again and again. Now, some of the videos I've done, they're good, but some of them are based on earlier videos and or the paper that's being updated. And so it's like, okay, let's go through every relevant chapter here, because I believe it is very clear. Is there another possible view like I just mentioned? Yes. Is it clear that it is the superior view? Not to me. I believe the evidence I'm going to show you shows that my view is the superior view. You can believe whatever you want. Trinity, Watchtower, I'm going with the superior view, especially when it doesn't require me to reinterpret things based on later views. So I think it's good that we do this. That way we have a fresh presentation, no extended discussion about Sam and his irrelevant issues, right? That are relevant at times because of what he does and what they have done using him, but not tonight. Unless he shows up, right, Sam? If you're out there and you want to show up, I want to hear why what I'm about to show you is wrong. If one of your minions who is dumb enough to still be supporting you wants to show up and say, hey, right here, wrong. Says right here, whatever you got to say. You can even make several posts, right? I'll be generous, but you're not going to go insane. Okay. Should be obvious. Let's see whether you can handle. Most people here post on X. So you should be able to make several points pretty efficiently. That's what I'm looking for. If I can't get the StreamYard going, which I'm trying to, and I'll try again, then I want to know. Now or later. But if you can't do it now, then I think that says something. So there's no excuse here. All right, let's get to it. Let me say hi to everyone, and we're going to get to it, okay? I think I have everything the way I need it to. You guys said it looks good. What's StreamYard doing here? Okay, I'm going to come back to that. And right now, I'm going to say hi to everyone. And let me take this off. And I'm just going to bring up a couple items. We're going to be starting in. We're going to read John 12 first, okay? We're going to do it right now. I'm going to say hi to everyone, and boom, on our way. Just setting it up. So we're starting at John 12, boom, boom. And I went ahead and copied this from the Bible Hub. So It'll save us a little time. We can go there, of course, but I copied the New American Standard. You can see right here. We're going to start in John 12. We'll get right back to that. Let me say hi to everyone real quickly. Yes, Samurai Hack. Yes, he is still running this argument, and because they go insane over this kind of stuff, and they're getting blown out. Right? He's lost Ignatius. Right? I don't want to again get off on Sam, but the comments. Right? I will read comments. I'll even engage Sam in the comments or live, now or later. He's really not relevant. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He can bulldoze his way through. If he does that, boom, out of here. Right? He gave me hardly anything, and he lied about it all. So I'm not going to be charitable. Either way, I'm not going to tolerate his nonsense. If he makes a good point, fine. Same with anybody else. If you can't make a good point, either in the chat first, and then I say, okay, you made a good point, let's bring you up and talk. You got to at least show who you are and what you want to talk about. We're not going to bring up a bunch of lames who just go insane and want to look like a retard for a moment, Now, again, that can happen. So even though I'm trying to keep this focused on the text and the facts and the information, we all know how this can go with certain people. And, I'll do my best to just manage it. So I don't have a problem doing with Sam on his level because I think he's a bully and and they started it, right? They've not only started, they've kept it going for like 40 years, right? And they've improved. They none of them got rid of him first, right? He apostatized from all of them, or just disagrees, and they don't care, right? So it's a catastrophe in every way, and they have to own that. We're not here to be your moral punching bag when you created, maintained, and promoted a pervert. And I'll leave it at that. Okay. Samurai Hack. Very nice. Mr. Up and Comer. Excuse me. Good to see you. User asks if I have videos on Philippians 2:6 and Hebrews 1:3. I do. We will be doing more on Philippians 2, but I have videos on both of those, actually several. So go ahead and just type those scriptures on my homepage where the little magnifying glass is, a little search scope, and they should come up. Good job, Samurai Hack, covering for me there. User, we don't do your work for you. It's real easy. You just type a couple words, sometimes just one word and a couple numbers. So we're going to assume you can do that. Don't burden anyone else again. If you do that again, you'll be removed. You're supposed to be listening and or contributing and or capable of typing in a scripture, right? So let's try to raise the standard here, everybody. We don't need to populate with lames. Let's get your act together, or boom, move it, right? Go to Sam or some of these lower level lames who really say nothing new, right? Sam has nothing. None of them do. It's the same stuff over and over again. But we'll deal with it tonight efficiently and, more if we have to. No problem. They're all lying and missing pretty much everything. But they're blind, just like the people we're going to be reading about. So it's actually a good parallel and one you should remember. So hopefully it'll save you time. Life here and beyond. Good to see you. Randy Kalakalar. Nice. Yeah, well, Cato 229, because it's a figurative use of firstborn for a temporal subject. Israel, right. When you actually do a study of firstborn in the Bible, or you could actually go to my home channel where there's a little search magnifier and type firstborn. Guess what? Like 20 videos will come up, and one in particular that talks about every single use of the Greek term for firstborn in the Bible, and even for the Hebrew terms, like firstborn of death. That has a beginning. Every single thing to which firstborn is applied, figurative or literal, has a beginning. Now what, Cato? Have you found that out? Or is the only reference you know about a figurative one that's nonetheless temporal? Go figure. Okay, so now that you know that, and that there's no exception, unless you want to go to the Kabbalah like Dr. White did a long time ago, fine. What about those 4 definitions you're mocking right now? So, Cato, 4 definitions. That's not enough to convince you, huh? Over 100 uses literally and several figuratively that are all temporal. That's not enough to convince you, huh? What about firstborn from death, Cato? Yeah, was he really resurrected from death? Right, he's the firstborn, even called firstborn from the dead in the context in which he's called firstborn of all creation. Both of them are temporal. In both, he was given life as a spirit, just like we read in Proverbs, Revelation 3, and 1 Corinthians 15:45. So glad we could divert onto your lack of awareness of very basic issues in text and videos. Does anyone search anymore? Or are they just gone? Right? So weird. Good to have you, though, Cato. You'll learn something. Keep asking your dumb questions. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that, but I really do. Why? Because, like I said, all that information, you ignored it all. Should I say it's smart? Is that a good question, Cato, in light of all that? No. I'm being honest, right? Just like I am with Sam, only it's a little more or less relevant. Sometimes because of Sam. Either way, Cato, glad I could help you. And you're forgiven for interrupting the show. Now, I did mention firstborn though. So relevant, but still, I had to deal with it quickly and efficiently. And I believe I did. Either way, John 12, Cato. Okay, you or anybody else, I just want one. Okay, no, I'm not talking about like if I make a misspeak, I get a chance to correct those things. Everybody does. So let's not be that way. Okay, verify that I'm actually standing. You have to stand, you have to double down. Okay, so anything I say that's an error and you believe you can show as an error, live or in writing, I'm here. It shouldn't be hard. Where am I wrong? John 12, let's get it on. Cato. Okay, and we know we have other people. Were there others I ignored because Cato distracted me? Sean, can't be the firstborn of a group without being part of the group. You know, there are good people. People do learn. And I know Cato he's just trying to help their position. But Cato, it's not you personally. It's other people who have done this so many times. We kind of can't handle it anymore. We're losing faith in the system. Okay, we're losing faith in people's ability to. Why even do anything, right? Why should I do anything if it's just going to come up again, right? I'm not like these other people where I have to do it to survive, right? I mean, if people aren't going to watch anything, it'd be one thing if I never talk about it or it's subject. Maybe Cato's new. That could be Cato. But I don't know you, right? So I have a limited information. But you have access to all of my videos and information. Therefore, it's reasonable for me to expect a standard of competency before you come in and start. Because, see, otherwise, Cato, what's going to happen, and maybe this is true, but we're going to somewhat assume, if not entirely, you're with people like Sam, right? So I'm going a little on with this to give a warning as we start here, because I'm not going to keep going over this in these ways. Okay, well, I appreciate it. And I know you have more to say, but, again, I've had to deal with Sam and other people in ways where, I don't spend a lot of time with this anymore if I don't have to. This, though, we're going to spend some time with because, again, I'm trying to bring everything together in one video that isn't based on a kind of clip of other videos or writings that are being updated or just are older, and where it's a straight reading of all three and a half critical chapters and why I believe that the glory of John 12:41 that John says Isaiah saw and spoke about Jesus is the glory as a man that was kind of the opposite of the glory that they're saying he's talking about in Isaiah 6. It's kind of weird, I know. But that's why it's important to understand the way glory is used here for an outward form or appearance. I tried to explain this in my paper. I did. And they still just don't get it. You're going to see why I say that. It's a very important point. And I've highlighted it in a way that there's no excuse anymore, boys, okay? If you don't see it, I want to hear it, okay? It's your chance. You can't put something down. Betsy, good to see you. Then I don't think you have anything, right? I mean, either now or later. All right, so Betsy, as I was saying, we're about to begin. We're going to go through this one more time, at least for now, by a full reading of John 12, Isaiah 6, and part of Isaiah 52 and all 53. I'm going to present my best evidence for why I believe my prior positions are still correct, even more so after tonight. And in fact, the best defensible position with Watchtower's position and or the position that sees Jesus as the heavenly representation or the imprint of God's glory in a way that doesn't mean we're actually seeing God, like John says, but we're seeing the glory of the only begotten God that is his imprint. That's why the Bible says no one has seen God, and that's why it says we see God, okay? Because the Bible doesn't think it's going to be read and relied on by, certain people. Therefore, let's just see if I convince you, okay? I want to know. Cato, everybody, please forget everything. I want to know where I'm wrong. I'm going to give you my evidence. Here it is. This is coming right here. Sam, if you can't under a fake name or your real name, I'm going to check StreamYard here. We're going to try that again, okay? Don't go anywhere. And we're going to figure that out, and we're going to get people in here. This is over. It's over. If you can't at least put something down, I don't know what to tell you. And then I don't think you have anything to say, right? That's a requirement to get on the StreamYard. I got to make sure you're competent, at least to write a sentence or two explaining what you're saying and that you've been listening. We're not going to put on the quality of the gone, okay? No. John 12. Here we go. New American Standard Bible. Therefore, verse 1, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they made him a dinner there, and Martha was serving, and Lazarus was one of those reclining at the table with him. Verse 3, Mary then took a pound of very expensive perfume of pure nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who intended to betray him, said, Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the proceeds given to poor people? Verse 6, Now he said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. And as he kept the money box, he used to steal from what was put into it. Verse 7. Therefore Jesus said, Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. That's an important subject. Verse 8, For you always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. Verse 9, The large crowd of the Jews then learned that he was there, and they came, not on account of Jesus only, but so that they might also see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. Verse 10, But the chief priests planned to put Lazarus to death also. Verse 11, bold and italics added by me, because on account of him, that is Lazarus, many of the Jews were going away and were believing in Jesus. That is also important, isn't it? So we have his death, his burial being honored by Mary. And then we have Lazarus being the object of the chief priest's attempt to kill along with Jesus, because on account of Lazarus, many Jews were going away and believing in him, Jesus. 12, on the next day, when the large crowd that had come to the feast heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, they took the branches of the palm trees and went out to meet him and began shouting. Began shouting, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. Now, I'm going to use Yahweh here because we all know this is a quotation from the Old Testament, Psalm 118. And it says basically the same thing in this relevant part here, capitalized in the NASB. He who comes in the name of Yahweh. We know that later Baal translations remove the divine name. We not only have evidence that all manuscripts available to the New Testament writers during the first century and earlier had the divine name in the parts where it was quoted, but even Origen says in the late 2nd, 3rd century, divine name is in the best manuscripts, like the Old Testament, again quoted in the New. We also know Origen was condemned, and his manuscripts, including the Hexapla, a 6-column presentation of the Bible, would have had the divine name because he said it was in the best, and or abbreviations or surrogates like we see in some of the Jewish translations in the Hexapla, destroyed. Okay, so we'll use in the name of, but we all know what that name is, Yahweh. The one who comes in that name, Micah 5, the one whose God is Yahweh. He's coming in that name. Right? The God is the one who's speaking elsewhere in the book of Isaiah, and someone's coming to pave the way, namely, messenger of the covenant, Malachi 3. Very important to know, especially if you're dealing with certain people. Either way, we also know from John 5, Jesus' name is not Yahweh. He's given that name, I believe, but it's not his originally. That's why he says if he came in his own name, they would accept him. They don't accept him because he's not coming in his own name. It's very clear and obvious, unless you don't believe the Bible. Right here, verse 14. Jesus, finding a young donkey, sat on it, as it is written. Verse 15, do not fear, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt. So here again, quoting the Old Testament, right, in this case, Zechariah. So then in verse 16, John 12, these things his disciples did not understand at first. Are you paying attention? I know you are, but I want to make it clear. I'm openly challenging everybody here. Right? I have a standing challenge to Trinitarians that's not been accepted. Does the Bible explicitly teach the Trinity? Or require the Trinity? Either one. Because they do both. Either way, I'd like to see a response here, okay? So this is very important that you focus if that's what you intend to give. And if you can't explain where I'm wrong, at least briefly, or several lines, or however long it takes you tonight, I don't know what to tell you. Comments later. It shouldn't be that hard. Now, if you're someone who sees like Watchtower and you need more convincing, well, I want to know. You tell me, why is my view wrong and Watchtower right when I get to things having to do with that? Not just Trinitarians or anybody. But it's mostly going to be Watchtower people and Trinitarians. They're those two views in opposition to mine. Which, again, does not just say that the Watchtower's view that I outlined earlier is not possible, but that the Trinitarian view is. So, to make that clear. Back to the text. These things his disciples did not understand at first. But when Jesus was glorified, when did that happen? What are we talking about here? Right? We're in John 12. Jesus is still alive. Right? You understand? See, I've shown this many times before, and people like Sam and others just keep lying. Like when they try to say that in John 1:14, where it says the only begotten Son who is in the bosom of the Father. Or they'll lie about that, or say about like in elsewhere in John where it says the Son of Man who is in heaven. and it's Jesus talking, they don't understand the narrative alteration relevant to the actual events and the current condition of the people. It's so stupid. And then we have to explain to them, no, in John 1:14, so it's talking about him when he was with the Father, right? And he was given glory, like he says in John 17. And any son who's in the bosom with the Father, right, guess what? They're separate. Because a spirit born from spirit is like flesh born from flesh. They're separate. There's no such thing as being born in yourself and having your son actually be a part of you as the Father. Right. Yeah, wrong on all levels and all possible facts. Right? Never happens. Not in any relatable sense to the Bible, and everything against that. So here we go. Right? We're dealing very clearly in John 1:14 with those writing John's gospel that he's narrating to them, talking about the Word being with the Father and becoming flesh, and then the things he does, and then referring to him at times like he does to them when he says that where I am, you may also be. In the sense relative to their present condition, which would mean that they would have to also be in heaven when they're on earth, if that's how you interpret what he says about himself. Talked about before, again, it gets really weird with Trinitarians. But right here, what it's saying is, these things his disciples didn't understand, right? This is someone writing after the fact. But when Jesus was glorified, so it's in the past, this is the writer of John saying, while he's narrating a present, series of events that happened that he's talking about, he then speaks about something that happened after these narrated events, as if they're happening. In the context of that, he refers to their understanding and how it improved later of what he's talking about now and that happened before he was glorified. You all see that, right? I know you do. This is why I like this account, because it shows very clearly. Even Trinitarians know that's what he's doing. That's the narrator, or John, and what he's saying, talking about events that happened, while also talking about other events that happened at a different time, including either present events as they're writing it, or events that happened later in the narrative that they are actually still writing. This is one of those. So he brings it up here. This is John 12, everyone. Am I wrong? His disciples didn't understand these two verses from Psalm 118 and Zechariah 9. But later, when he was glorified, when did that happen? They remembered that these things were written of him and that they had done these things. Okay, when was he glorified? I don't think there's a person watching, Watchtower, Trinitarian, or other, who would, maybe a Muslim. Okay, I'm talking to non-Muslims tonight, by the way, because I'm referring to documents in authoritative ways that wouldn't potentially relate to them. So don't take it personal, Muslims. Everyone outside of Muslims would agree this is talking about him being glorified at his death when he's lifted up, or his resurrection when he's raised up. One of or both of those in the same sense. That's the glory he's talking about. I think more specifically his death here, but it's followed by his resurrection, so I don't detach it completely. I think right here it's very clear. Tell me if I'm wrong, any of you outside of Muslims. This is talking about in John 12:16, him being glorified when he dies, which I believe relates back to what we read earlier, Mary anointing him for his burial, which then moves to the Jews wanting to kill him and Lazarus because other Jews were believing in him. Believing in him. Like what? Like seeing something and believing? Yeah, it seems like that to me. Then he's talked about as the one who comes in the name of Yahweh, not as Yahweh, the king who would come. And then his death is spoken about as glorification. Verse 17, so the people who were with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him up from the dead continued to testify about him. They really do believe, huh? That's proof right there, because this is why the Jews were so upset. Verse 18, for this reason also the people went to meet him. because they heard that he had performed this sign. This sign. What? Bringing someone out from the dead? Okay. So the Pharisees said to one another, you see that you're not accomplishing anything. Look, the world has gone after him. Verse 20. Now there were some Greeks among those who were going up to worship at the feast. Verse 21. These people then came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida of Galilee, and were making a request of him, saying, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. Verse 22. Philip came and told Andrew. Then Andrew and Philip came and told Jesus. Verse 23. Little drama there. Jesus answered them by saying, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Doxaste. That's a form of the verb doxao. So, right here, it's very clear, is it not? We have a direct association like what we were talking about earlier. Namely, that Jesus' death is what results in this glory. His glorification. Remember I said that we showed that, I'll go right back to it, but I want to make it clear. When I said that, do you all understand the connection that we have so far, now twice, with glory? And the Messiah's death, resurrection, burial, resurrection. Do you all see that so far? Or do you not see that? I want you to think about that, and I'll progressively stop you. So again, I want you to think about the specific points I'm making. One of them is the association of the glory about Jesus in John 12, directly relating to his condition, his suffering condition, and his death and resurrection. All of that together, I believe, is what we see in Isaiah that's related to the glory John 12 is talking about. Okay. All right, let me bring you guys back up. Where did I have it? I said John 12. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, doxaste, right? This verb here directly relates to the glorification of Jesus at his death, resurrection. He goes on to say, verse 24, truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Does everyone see the continuing connection with the glorification we highlighted earlier in verse 16 specifically? When he was glorified, something that happens after the events they're talking about here. The two quotes, one Psalm 118, one Psalm 9. They understand it after he's glorified, which is later, which is referred to again right here in verse 23. Does everybody see that? I want to make sure at least there's a general understanding, because this way you have the ability to criticize, okay? It's very important that you either see what I'm talking about or you tell me where I'm wrong, right? So we have a form of the Greek verb doxo, directly related to Jesus' death as the Son of Man or resurrection. Verse 24, truly, truly, I say to you, unless we read that. Verse 25, the one who loves his life loses it. Again, the continuing discussion of his death. The one who hates his life in this world will keep it to eternal life. And also resurrection, again, bears fruit. That's also included, as I said. Verse 26, if anyone serves me, he must follow me. And where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. Verse 27, now, sorry if I didn't include you on a part or two there. I could take myself off, but I want to make sure you know I'm here. Now my soul has become troubled. Verse 27, and what am I to say? Right, so there's something about, this is a bad time. Again, this, I believe, all has to do with his death and resurrection. But death is definitely his burial, right? That's why he was literally anointed earlier in this chapter. What it goes on to talk about, the grain of wheat, all of these things, him being glorified, the hour coming. That's the hour. The hour is the hour of his death, correct? If I'm wrong, put it down. He says, Father, save me from this hour. To me, again, very clear, that's the glorification we're talking about. But for this purpose, I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came out of heaven. I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. Verse 29. So the crowd who stood by and heard it were saying that it had thundered. Others were saying, an angel has spoken to him. Verse 30. Jesus responded and said, this voice has not come for my sake, but for yours. Verse 31. Now judgment is upon this world. Now the ruler of this world will be cast out. Verse 32, and if I am lifted up from the earth. Okay, now to me, that could be, again, being lifted up as he's being put to death, or his resurrection. You disagree? Put it down. If I'm lifted up from the earth, verse 32, will draw all people to myself. Verse 33, now he was saying this to indicate what kind of death he was going to die. Okay, so there, it's limited to his death. I'm not saying, again, as I have said the whole time, his resurrection is included in here in certain respects, like the grain dying and bearing fruit and things like that. But it's not the primary focus. It's not the overriding subject. It's not what he's thinking about, right? He's literally asking the Father to save him from this hour. That's how bad it is, okay? This is not a casual moment. This is not a lighthearted conversation. This is literally a discussion about death, his death, and how he's going to die and what he thinks about it. Does everybody see that? Yeah, me too. Verse 34, the crowd then answered him, we have heard from the law that the Christ is to remain forever. And how is it you say, the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is the Son of Man? Which we referenced earlier, or Jesus did, about himself, and the glorification that has to do with the hour of his death. They want to know what he's talking about. They can tell he's talking about dying, but it conflicts with what they believe otherwise from the law. Verse 35, so Jesus said to them, for a little while longer the light is among you. Walk while you have the light, so that darkness does not overtake you. Also, the one who walks in the darkness does not know where he is going. Verse 36, while you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become sons of the light. These things Jesus proclaimed and went away and hid himself from them. Okay. Are we all on the same page so far? I can't think of anything that I haven't shown based on what I've said is correct. I don't think I've made a connection to this point through verse 36 of John 12 that is incorrect or that is not the best but interpretation, not excluding any others. At this point, just I believe that. If you disagree, I would like to know why, and then we can go from there. Let's get back to it. Verse 37. Okay, this is where we get into really more explicit stuff, okay? Color coded. But though he had performed so many signs in their sight, remember how earlier he did and some believed and they even went around talking about him? And the Jews were all upset because of that and Lazarus being one of those signs. Verse 37, though he had performed so many signs, they still were not believing in him. Now, this is, again, a little bit different group. He says, who is the Son of Man, walks in darkness, then he hid himself from them. But he goes on, the narrative goes on to basically assume it's either the same people or similar, or at least identifiable based on what we read from here. So let's just do that. These people, whether of the same or of others, were not believing in him. We know some didn't believe. We know some did believe and some didn't believe. And it goes on to say that even more clear, as you'll see. Verse 38, this happened. What happened? They were not believing, right? He performed many signs in their sight, and they were not believing. Are we all in agreement to that point? Verses 37 and 38. He performed many signs in their sight, and they still wouldn't believe. This happened so that the word of Isaiah the prophet, which he spoke, that is, which Isaiah spoke, would be fulfilled. Okay, what happened so that this word in Isaiah would be fulfilled? This happened, right? Does everybody agree? Are we in agreement through this part of verse 38, the red part? What he's going to quote from Isaiah fulfills what he just said in verse 37 had happened, right? Because he talked about it up before 37, and he says, but though he did many signs in their sight, they weren't believing. This happened so that the word of Isaiah the prophet, which he spoke, would be fulfilled. What's that word? Quoting Isaiah 53:1. Ya'ol, who has believed our report? Believed. Believed. Who has believed? And to whom has the arm of Ya'ol been revealed? Okay, so who's believing something, and to whom is something being revealed? That's what Isaiah is talking about. Isaiah is addressing Ya'ol and saying, who has believed it? To whom has this been revealed? Verse 39, for this reason they could not believe. Why couldn't they believe? For Isaiah said again. This doesn't tell us, okay, Trinitarians especially, or anybody, Watchtower people with a different view than mine, although I don't discount yours entirely, as we discussed. Does verse 38, please pay attention, this is like a critical thing. If I'm wrong here, maybe you got me. If I'm right, though. Does this contain a reason for why they don't believe. Trinitarians, take a good look. You see verse 38? Does that contain a reason? For this reason, they could not believe. No, it doesn't, does it? It's talking about why they weren't believing. Even though he performed many sights, they weren't believing. This fulfills this. It doesn't tell us why they can't believe, right? Or don't believe. It just says they don't believe, and it fulfills that. But, and that's why this is, sometimes it's presented like in the NASB right here, even with this comma, I don't know what they're doing. It's very clear to me, and I think anyone reading the Greek, that it's talking about verse 40 when it says, for this reason they could not believe, because Isaiah said again. We don't need to go to it, because as I just showed and explained, this doesn't have a reason why they couldn't believe. This just fulfills that they were still not believing in him. It hadn't been revealed to them. They haven't believed, hadn't been revealed. Why? You ask why? Oh, Isaiah again said, verse 40, he has blinded their eyes and he has hardened their heart so that they will not see with their eyes and understand with their heart and be converted. And so I will not heal them. There's our reason why they can't do it. What is it they can't do? They can't believe, and it can't be revealed to them, right? Does everybody see that? Are we in agreement so far through verse 40? Check this out. Trinitarians, tell me if I'm crazy here, right? Do we all agree? He performed many signs, verse 37, in their sight, and they still didn't believe. This happened so that the word of Isaiah would be fulfilled, namely Isaiah 53:1, which says, questions, who's believed? To whom has it been revealed? Okay, there's no reason there. It just says, is asking who has believed and who has had it revealed to them. This fulfills what's happening. Then, in verse 39, a question that would be, we even ask today, right? Why do people believe and some do and some don't? Well, it's real simple. Verse 39, for this reason they can't believe. Isaiah again said, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart. Okay. So they will not see with their eyes and understand and be converted. So, what is it they're not seeing here? Right? Because the very next verse is the verse we need to answer. Namely, what is the glory John says Isaiah saw and spoke about? So they can't see because he blinds them. They're still fulfilling the fact that they don't believe or have had it revealed. Does everybody see there are two things here? Here are the reasons they can't believe or could not believe. This is the fulfillment of what he's been talking about. They were still not believing, even though he did many signs. Does everyone see that? I don't see any other way to interpret through verse 40 at this point. Let me see if anyone says, okay, I'm not seeing any like, hey, no, right here. And you got to make sense, right? Don't just say that. So verse 41, these things. Is he talking just about this? Or is he talking about verse 38? He's talking about both? These things Isaiah said because he saw his glory and he spoke about him. Verse 42, nevertheless, many even of the rulers believed in him. There's the belief. And it's actually happening, right? Some who aren't being blinded. But because of the Pharisees, they were not confessing him because they didn't want to be kicked out. The cowards. We'll get back. We're going to finish the account from verse 43 onward in a moment. Let's go back. This is the key section, right? This is what we really need to focus on first through to this point. So, the question then is John talking about Isaiah seeing heavenly divine glory, either in a vision or representationally a la Watchtower and a potential view for me, or a la Trinity, that as a person of the Godhead, as the Son, even though no one has seen God at any time, because of their assumption of the Trinity, they're able to see that as only the Father, the person of the Father, and so the Son is still part of the Trinity, but he's the one they're seeing, right? Something like that. Is John talking about Isaiah seeing that, like heavenly divine glory of one of those types? Or is he talking about another kind of glory, like the glory we sometimes associate with human beings? Like Jesus associated with himself right here. Does everybody see that? So we know for a fact, in this context of John 12, all the way from the beginning, which is not interrupting a prior narrative that's relevant, the Jews are trying to do away with him and Jesus because others are believing in his signs. They don't. That's what I was referring to earlier by some did, some don't. Psalm 118 is quoted, he comes in the name of Yahweh. Zechariah 9, he comes on a colt, a donkey's colt. Then the narrator, the writer, the one who's putting this together for John, refers to Jesus later on being glorified and them understanding the events he's telling them about. So we have glorification directly associated with his death and resurrection right here. And then we have it associated with the hour coming for the Son of Man in the context where he's praying about, potentially being saved at this hour, all the stuff related to his death. And we already reviewed this. Dying and coming to life and bearing much fruit, losing his soul. Father, what am I to say? Save me from this hour. That's the very hour he's talking about as the Son of Man being glorified in, right? We're not talking about, unless it's the Spirit, right? Unless we're talking about like 1 Corinthians 15:45, where he's created as a life-giving spirit, as the firstborn from the dead. That's what firstborn means, created. And that's explicitly what it says in 1 Corinthians 15:45, right? Game over. Right here, we can see clearly glorification is at least limited to whatever resurrected glory he would have as a spirit or as a Son of Man who's dying, which he directly associates with it throughout the context and right here. Verse 32, if I'm lifted up, he was saying this to indicate what kind of death, not what kind of life or resurrection, even though, again, we're not saying that didn't happen or isn't implied in some of these texts or comments. That's not the subject or the focus, clearly. And it's all about him dying as the Son of Man being lifted up, just like John 8. So then it says in that context where he's concerned, he's talking about praying to the Father to potentially save him, but no, he came because of this. All that is happening. Talking about him being lifted up, what kind of death he's going to do. All the signs he's doing with Lazarus. Some of them, or those here, are not believing in him. This fulfills Isaiah 53. Who believed? Who was given the revelation of what this guy was going to do? The reason they can't believe, because it's all over the Old Testament, as we know, is he blinds them. So they won't see it and understand and be converted. These things Isaiah said because he saw his glory and spoke about him. Okay. So which is it? Which is it, everybody? I believe I'm going to convince you right now It's the glory of him as a man who was dishonored because he was lowly and his form was one without glory, because it's not the glory they're talking about. If it was, they would have seen it because he displayed it multiple times according to them. And the fact is, the described glory in the quoted text that fulfills what he's been talking about, like we just saw, not the reason why they can't believe, like we just saw from Isaiah 53:1, in that context, makes it explicitly clear, if at least in the best available evidence, I believe, he's talking about the glory they saw of him as a lowly suffering man who then died and was resurrected. And the glory is exactly the opposite of what the Trinitarians are claiming with respect to Isaiah 6. Isaiah 6. Let's go to it right now. And then Isaiah 52:53, and I'm going to show you very clearly there's no way it could be what they're talking about. So we're going to come back to John 12. We're going to go to John 6. I'm sorry, Isaiah 6 right now. I'll bring you guys up here. This is not long. This is not a long chapter, okay? So we're going to move right through this. Any questions? Boom, we're going to get to them. And I put on here, to save us time, I have Brenton's English translation of the Septuagint. That's what we're using, because even though there are questions about what language John spoke or wrote in, and same with Jesus, the fact is the argument by Trinitarians relies on the Greek text and its relationship, allegedly, more so to Isaiah 6 than to 52:53, with which I disagree. I'm going to show you right now. Look, Isaiah 6, verse 1. It came to pass in the year in which King Ozias died, that I saw the Lord, Edon ton Kyrion, sitting on a high and exalted throne. Okay, now that right there does not say I saw his glory or I saw the glory. It does get to that. The way Trinitarians talk, though, is as if there's an actual expression in Isaiah 6 like what we see in John 12:41. There is not. They're interpreting similar or the same words in different forms that they're connecting in a context that's totally different. And in the case of Isaiah 6, that isn't anywhere near, or for the reason why Isaiah 6 is quoted in John 12. When in fact, the usage of the same terms, seen and glory, that they allege are the connection with Isaiah 6 from John 12, are not only in Isaiah 52 and 53, they're more clearly associated with what John's talking about, like we just read and we'll read again. Back to the text. Check it. We'll get to your comments in a minute, Cato. I see you. See on the throne, and the house was full of his glory. Okay, so there we see, this is what Trinitarians really like to connect. They think seeing, Edon, and if they just take that and go all the way to the end of the verse, even though it's not the object of the verb, ton kyrion is, right? Because the extended description refers to the house being full of his glory, that's what they try to make it seem like it's a direct connection, a direct object, basically, right? But it's not. So that is false. They're just interpreting the glory that's then later described as if it's the glory that John says Isaiah saw. He doesn't say that, and that interpretation is, I believe, especially for Trinitarians, false for sure. And for Watchtower people, and in my sense, partially, it's just not the best. And for the reasons that John 12 made clear already. But there's more. Watch. First, Isaiah 6, right? This is their text, everyone. This is what they have. It's what they claim John 12 is talking about. In verse 41, after talking about all those things that we saw he was talking about, from 1 to verse 40. Look at now from here, verse 2. And seraphs stood around about him. Each one had 6 wings, and with 2 they covered their face, and with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. Verse 3, and one cried to the other and said, holy, holy, holy is Yahweh. Sometimes if I say Lord, that's just me reading the text. I mean to say the divine name, which should be in the text. But, sometimes I may say one or the other. The whole earth is full of his glory. And I highlighted this here again because I believe it is at least relevant because we have the same terms used from verse 1. But again, it's not connected. It's not an object of Edon or even a similar sight verb in verse 3. So, yes, we can all agree that Isaiah has seen this vision in which there is glory of Yahweh described. We see that. Please stop saying that it says, I saw the glory or his glory, okay? You need Trinitarians who are doing that are lying and misrepresenting things, and you're making it hard to dialogue. You're not being honest. Okay, deal with it. It doesn't say that. You're either interpreting it correctly or we are. Because in both Isaiah 6 and Isaiah 52 and 53, Isaiah sees Jesus' glory. Whether it's him in vision as the representative of Yahweh, as I said earlier, the character, the apagasma, or like the whole chapter of John 12 is talking about, him as a man and dying and resurrection, that glory. Well, that's what we need to figure out, right? I don't think there's really any question about it when you consider what we just read in John 12. But there's more. Verse 4. And the lintels shook at the voice they uttered, and the house was filled with smoke. Oh, by the way, because sometimes people like Sam and others like to misrepresent people or misrepresent the Bible in this case. They'll say this is sometimes like evidence of the Trinity without telling people that the great Isaiah scroll, the best text of Isaiah we have, best, most complete text, only says it twice, Sam. Okay? So please be more honest. There is another Isaiah scroll in the Dead Sea Scrolls that uses it three times, just not the great Isaiah scroll. So if we could get a little honesty from you Trinitarians where you never, ever qualify your use of this text that way, it'd be great, right? People would learn. Education. Verse 5. And I said, woe is me, for I am pricked to the heart, for being a man and having unclean lips, right? This is Isaiah talking. Does everyone see that? Just want to make sure, right? Because he's talking, from memory, he talked about how he was in the year in which King Ozias died. He saw the Lord. This is Isaiah describing what he saw. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. And I said, okay, that's Isaiah. Woe is me, for I'm pricked to the heart, being a man and having unclean lips. I dwell in the midst of a people having unclean lips. And I have seen with mine eyes. I highlighted this because it does use Adon, and it refers to his eyes, tois, ophthalmos, mu. But again, we know no one has seen God anytime. You can't see God and live. This is either a vision in that sense in which he's just able to deal with it, but he's also being purified here in order to continue to do so, but he's still seeing him before being purified. So I think it's either a vision or, again, angelic representation like we see all throughout the Bible, and we know no one has seen God at any time and or can do so and live. Isaiah's still alive, so something else is going on. The King, the Lord of hosts, Yahweh. Verse 6, there was sent to me one of the seraphs, and he had in his hand a coal, which he had taken off the altar with the tongs. And he touched my mouth and said, behold, this has touched your lips, and will take away thine iniquities, and will purge off thy sins. Now, I have a very important question for everybody, especially you Trinitarians. You ready? Here it is. Do you see anywhere in verses 1 through 7? Anywhere in verses 1 through 7 where Isaiah speaks about Jesus without you having to, it's got to be like at least somewhat clear, okay? That's what John says he's doing. He saw his glory and spoke about him, okay? Does Isaiah speak about Jesus anywhere in verses 1 through 7 of Isaiah 6? We're not talking about the glory. We know you assume that's what John is talking about in verse 1. We're talking about where he speaks about him. Because Isaiah said he saw his glory. He said these things because he saw his glory and spoke about him. So I'm not saying he doesn't speak about him elsewhere in Isaiah 6 or that there isn't somewhere else. I'm talking about verses 1 through 7. Okay? So that you can tell me, hey, you're wrong. He saw his glory in verse 1, and then he spoke about him in verse 2, right? Which Trinitarians wouldn't do, even though that was a later view expressed by some Jews and others. But we don't need to get into that right here. It's either the Trinitarians see that as, but he's not, well, either he's speaking about him as a seraph, right? Or of Jesus as one of those who cry to the other about Yahweh. All right. Or, right, you can't say this is him talking about Jesus in John 12, right? No, that's you reading into it what's clearly not there or discussed or anywhere implied in John 12. So this, but it says said, right? So we all know the scene. We're looking for the saying. Saw his glory and spoke about him. Okay. So is there anywhere in verses 1 through 7, Trinitarians, where Isaiah speaks about his glory or sees his glory and speaks about Jesus? Yes or no? You don't have to answer now, but that's what I want. That's what I say. No. What do you say? Okay. So I say no speaking about Jesus that's anywhere even potentially clear or somewhat clear in verses 1 through 7. Verse 8. Now, sometimes, and even I sometimes see like a foreshadowing of Jesus, purifying us of our sins here. He's not writing about that here, though. He's just talking about what happened to him. So, unless you're going to say this, I want to know. That's possible. I don't think so, though. I don't think this is what John is talking about. And this is a seraph doing it. And so he'd be speaking about, again, the seraph. The seraph is the one purifying his sins here. And he's writing about the seraph. Okay, so I don't think so. Verse 8, and I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Who will go to this people? And I said, behold, I'm here, send me. And he said, go and say to this people, ye shall hear indeed, but ye shall not understand. And ye shall see indeed, but ye shall not perceive. And then verse 10 is where we get the quote from Isaiah 12:40. What the reason they couldn't believe? For the heart of this people has become gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. And their eyes they have closed. Have they closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, here's the quote, and understand with their heart and be converted. And I should heal them. That's the part we read from John 12:40. The reason they can't believe. He's blinding them. He's preventing them. I have a note here saying this is quoted, like I said in John 12:40, if anything at all from verse 1 to 10. Is there anything at all, I would say, like I wrote here? I meant to just remind myself to ask you. Other than verse 10, right? And I guess part of verse 9, which is very similar to verse 10. That this is the quote in John 12. This is the part quoted in John 12:40 where he said, like we made very clear, they could not believe because Isaiah again said, right after saying Isaiah 53:1 fulfilled what he had been talking about. But that the reason it fulfilled it was because of what Isaiah said here. That's exactly what we reviewed together. So now we're in verse 10. At most part of the thought of verse 5, 9 carrying to 10. The scene of the glory was in verse 1. That's 9 verses from seeing glory, not directly, but it's described there, what he's seen, and the actual quotation that says why they can't believe. Now, what Trinitarians are saying, and this is so important, if you miss this, everything else is still important, but this is number one. Okay, this is one of, well, there are a couple coming, but don't miss this right here. You're either telling us, Trinitarians, that Isaiah saw this glory, this heavenly divine glory. Set aside the specific Trinitarian Watchtower type glory, just for now. Supernatural divine glory. Okay, that's the next question. First, we're trying to figure out, what is John talking about in John 12:41 when he says, Isaiah said these things because he saw Jesus' glory and spoke about him. It says his glory, but it's about Jesus. So it's the same thing in this case. We want to know, what is he talking? What is John saying there? Okay, can we figure, is this so beyond resolution we just can't figure? I don't think so, but look. You're either telling us, Watchtower and Trinitarian people, that John is talking about divine heavenly glory, like in Isaiah 6:1, and then speaking about him in Isaiah 6:10 and Isaiah 53:1. You're either telling us that, or what I'm about to show you now. All right, after I read the rest of Isaiah 6, I think, did we read it all? Almost. You're either saying that Isaiah 6:1, 6:10, and 53:1 are all what John is talking about. 2 are quoted, 1 is assumed, right? You're either saying the glory John 12:41 is referring to is Isaiah 6:1, or it has to be his humanly glory, right? There isn't really another kind of glory in play. The question would then be, where's the human glory, right? If it's not this heavenly divine glory, where are we getting this human glory from? Okay, but I want to make it clear. Trinitarians and Watchtower people believe John 12:41 is talking about Jesus' divine heavenly glory from Isaiah 6:1. In Watchtower's case, as the representative angel apalgasma character. In Trinitarian's case, it's the second person of the Trinity. Okay, they're both telling us John 12:41, when he says Isaiah saw his glory, it's Isaiah 6:1 he's talking about. And then he spoke about him in Isaiah 6:10 or 9 verses later, and in Isaiah 53:1. Again, as I said, that's possible. I've always said that in my everything. I just don't believe it's correct or the best option. And even more so tonight. Okay? You need to understand, though, very important here, okay, that the connection they're making to Isaiah 6:1, that's going to be their undoing. That's why I need to make sure you understand. I know they understand. You need to understand that's what they're talking about. They're talking about Isaiah seeing that heavenly divine glory, okay? I don't believe he is. I believe it's very clear he's not. Okay, so how would I do that? Well, first, the rest of Isaiah 6, verse 11, we haven't read. And I said, how long, O Lord, Yahweh? And he said, until cities be deserted by reason of their not being inhabited, and the houses by reason of there being no men, and the land shall be desolate. Okay. Sometimes you might be able to see, right, this kind of as a full, until this, right, until cities be deserted, and the houses by reason of there be no men, and that land shall be left desolate. Oh, actually, there's a little more. I'm sorry. Verse 12. And after this, okay, so after all this, this is the part quoted in John 12. So now we're going past this. We'll read it anyway. After this, God shall remove the men far off. He's talking about continuation from 11, right? Talking about the cities being deserted and for how long, right? How long? After this, God shall remove them, they that are left in the land, and yet there shall be a tenth upon it. And again, it shall be for a spoil as a turpentine tree and as an acorn when it falls out of its husk. So I and others sometimes see this as a messianic in the sense that it refers to the ultimate, seed or acorn root that is Jesus, sprout, right? The remaining part. Now, it's again, this is not like explicit. It's not quoted in John 12, okay? Now, verse 10 is, and that again is specifically for the reason why they don't believe. We'll get back to it in a minute. But I want to make it clear there's like a potential messianic application about Jesus here, but it's not quoted in John 12 or again explicit enough to say for sure. I have a note here, only well after the quoted verse 10, is there any possible indication of a future Messiah as we will see fulfilled of Jesus in John 12? And verse 13 is not quoted, as I just said. Isaiah 53:1 is. So let's go to that right now. We just finished Isaiah 6. We read every single text as translated by Brenton in the Septuagint. Okay, and I checked it all, so I made sure even translationally we weren't leaving anything out. If you think I did, then you need to point it out and take issue with it, and we'll deal with it. Before we read Isaiah 6, we read John 12. We're going to come back to that and finish with that. Now Isaiah 52:53. Now listen, everybody. Just briefly back to Isaiah 6, okay? Does anybody see Jesus being explicitly talked about in Isaiah chapter 6? Okay, so we can make a connection here between seeing glory in John 12. It's possible. Is there any it has to be clear, it has to be not something you're just interpreting, right? Like the seraph with the angel and the tongues and the sin. It's an interpretation. They don't build doctrine from that kind of stuff, right? Not unless the apostles or prophets say that. Do you see Jesus being spoken about anywhere in Isaiah 6? I don't see it anywhere except potentially, like I said, the very last verse. And that's only in the future fulfillment sense in which he, as the seed, brings forth a remnant of Israel that is saved through the coming in of the Gentiles, right? So I see that as related to Jesus, but it's not clearly a reference to Isaiah speaking about him because, first of all, it's not quoted in John 12, and it's detached from the actual quotation by 3 verses that has nothing to do with what it's talking about. The only quotation from Isaiah 6 right here in John 12:40 is prefaced, as we saw and we'll see again, with it being the reason they can't believe. It's not even the fulfillment of everything he's been talking about. He brings in this verse right here to explain part of what's been fulfilled that he is talking about. Trinitarians missed this every single time, and they just fail to understand why these verses are quoted, which is exactly also a fulfillment of those texts. Either way, right? Of course, even the disciples didn't learn about it until after Jesus was glorified, right? Context. So don't give up hope, Cato and Trinitarians. It could happen. Don't delay, right? No more delay. Okay, does anyone see a clear reference to Jesus? Let me see. Cato, I want to know, right? Yeah, okay, we know the whole seat. That's an interpretation, and we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about, and in that sense, yeah, it could be true. I already said that. So good job, Cato. But does anyone, please put it down now or later or tell me whatever. Does anyone see that Isaiah talks about Jesus in Isaiah 6? We've already seen that we can make the connection between seeing and glory. The question is this heavenly divine glory the glory that John 12:40 is talking about? It's possible. Wouldn't mean Trinity necessarily, but okay. So is it or not, right? Isaiah 52:53. All right, everybody. We're going to end this. Well, we're going to go back to John 12, but we're getting close. Focus. This is the end of this insane misinterpretation and false doctrine the Trinitarians keep throwing in our face. And Watchtower people, I think it's time for you guys to get on board as well. Yeah, we can interpret it that way, but why don't we go with the best, okay? We don't need to just look for possibilities that match your current view because it's comfortable so you don't get in trouble with Watchtower. No, why don't you go on the side of the truth? That's Jesus, by the way. Isaiah 52. Here we go, everybody. Very important. Awake, awake, Sion. Put on thy strength, O Sion. And O thou put on thy glory, Jerusalem, the holy city. There shall be no more pass through thee. Right, so we can see right at the opening, right? We have this is a translation of the Greek, it's Brenton's. We have glory being referenced for a physical object, namely Jerusalem, right? Its physical appearance is what that's talking about. Verse 2, shake off the dust and arise, sit down, Jerusalem. Put off the band of thy neck, captive daughter of Sion. For thus saith Yahweh, ye have been sold for nothing, and ye shall not be ransomed with silver. Verse 4, thus saith Yahweh, my people went down before to Egypt to sojourn there, and were carried away forcibly to the Assyrians. Verse 5, and now, why are you here? Thus saith Yahweh, because my people was taken for nothing. Wonder you and how, thus saith Yahweh. I'm kind of working with the English we have. On account of you, my name is continually blasphemed among the Gentiles, pig. Verse 6, therefore shall my people know my name in that day. For I am he that speaks. I am present. As a season of beauty upon the mountains, as the feet of one preaching glad tidings of peace, as one preaching good news. For I will publish your salvation. He's going to tell them about their salvation. You see that in verse 7? Say no, Sion, thy God shall reign. We already know who ultimately reigns and who gives people to reign. We move on. He's going to talk about their salvation. Verse 8, the voice of them that guard thee is exalted, and with the voice together they shall rejoice. For eyes shall look to eyes, and when Yahweh shall have mercy upon Sion. Isaiah 52:9, Greek translation of the Greek. Let the waste places of Jerusalem break forth in joy together, because the Lord has had mercy upon her, and has delivered Jerusalem. Verse 10, and the Lord shall reveal his holy arm in the sight of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation that comes from our God. So, all these terms, by the way, are related. Hopsantai, Adon. Some are just forms used for verbs like horao that don't have, for example, aorist forms. So we get terms like adon, aden. They're all related to the same verb. So same with this verb. They look at verse 10. What this is so important, everybody. Look. Yahweh shall reveal, apocalypse, like apocalypsis, revelation. This is the verb. That's the noun. A revelation. Apocalypse, his holy arm in the sight of all the nations. And all the ends of the earth shall see, hopsantai, the salvation that comes from our God. He just said he was going to publish about it, right? And then that's what he goes on to do. Well, how? He's going to reveal his holy arm in the sight of all the nations. Does that sound familiar to you? That's not the quote from John 12, where he says this fulfills what they've been doing. Who has believed our report? To the who has had the arm of Yahweh revealed to them? This is not from that. This is before that. Context, everybody. You need to read all these chapters together. Okay, I'm reading 4, actually. John 12, Isaiah 6, Isaiah 52 and 53. Because they're all relevant. We're in 52 still. We haven't even gotten to the quote in 53:1 that culminates all of this. That's what Isaiah is seeing. Yahweh shall reveal his holy arm in the sight of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation that comes from our God. Depart ye, depart, go out from thence, and touch not the unclean thing. Go out from the midst of her, separate yourselves, ye that bear the vessels of Yahweh. Verse 12, ye shall not go forth with tumult, neither go by flight. For Yahweh shall go first in advance of you, and the God of Israel shall be he that brings up your rear. That's not literal, as you'll see, and as we've proven many times. Verse 13, behold. In other words, see. That term also, idu, is related, just like hopsantai and adon, to the same verb. But it's a special form, an imperative form, second person imperative form. They all, every one of them that I've shown you so far that relates to seeing, adon, aden, hopsantai, idu, all of them relate to the same verb. They're not different, they're just different forms of the same verb, or sometimes special forms that verb doesn't have. So, it means look, see. It's not just casual. It's an imperative, like forcefully. Look, see. See what? My servant shall understand and be exalted and glorified exceedingly. What are we seeing here? This is another critical key, everybody. You need to understand this, right? Do you see that term right here? The second red, doxos thesetai. That's a future passive form of the verb we've been seeing and seeing different forms of. Dokeo, it has different forms, right? Doxazo. But these are all forms of those verbs. This is the future, okay? This is Isaiah seeing the future glory of the Messiah, the one he's talking about. And our Trinitarians view the Messiah. There's no dispute there. Look again. That's the exact same, it's related to the same verb as in John 12:41. It's just there, it's in narration. He's not even talking to anybody. He's just writing for his readers. This is someone actually speaking in the narrative, talking to others in an imperative second person. So that's why it looks different. It's exactly the same, though, in terms of what it means and its relationship. My servant shall understand. Look, behold, and glorified. My servant shall be glorified. That's what Isaiah is seeing and writing about. Now, let me ask you all a question. When I asked you earlier about Isaiah 6, even if you're a Trinitarian, did you have kind of a hard time finding Isaiah writing in any way somewhat clearly about the Jesus? Because John says he wrote those things because he saw Jesus' glory and spoke about him. So the question is, where did he see his glory and where did he speak about him? Well, you guys tell us, and Watchtower does too, but for different reasons, implications. The glory was seen in Isaiah 6. Okay, so where did he speak about him? Just the quote in Isaiah 10? Because John says that's why they can't believe. It's not even talking about Jesus, by the way. Did you know that? Did you know, as we're going to show again, Isaiah 6:10, I've just been waiting to see if you guys are going to use that, right? Isaiah 6:10 isn't even talking about Jesus. Unless it's just the object of them not being able to believe, which isn't explicit, right? It's talking about, John literally says, this is why they can't believe. He's not talking about Jesus by quoting Isaiah 6:10. Okay, but you may say, yeah, but that's what it is. Okay, fine. So you see his glory in verse 1, and then he speaks about him in verse 10 after there's this interaction with Isaiah and a seraph. And Isaiah says he's going to go. And then he gets to verse 10, and verse 9, 10, that's where he speaks about him. Okay, well, let me ask you the same question about this. Isaiah 52, 53. Are you seeing Jesus anywhere? Right? Do you see Jesus? It's like every verse almost, right? It's unbelievable. Verse 13, behold, my servant shall understand and be exalted and glorified exceedingly. As many shall be amazed at you, so shall thy face, ta eidos su, your form, be without glory. Adoxe se. From men. And thy glory shall not be honored by the sons of men. Your glory, he doxa su. Does anybody see Isaiah seeing the Messiah's glory and speaking about it? We're not in chapter 53 yet, that's been quoted in John 12. No, this is building up to that, by the way. Context is important, isn't it? Does anybody see the Messiah and Isaiah seeing the Messiah's glory? Right? Literally says, see his servant be glorified right here. It literally says they'll look at him and see that his form or face is without glory, meaning they're wrong in connecting the glory of John 12 with Isaiah 6. Unless you're going to say that the first chapter, Isaiah 53:1 and Isaiah 6:10 are totally disconnected in the relationship of the glory. Totally different, right? Are you insane? It says right here, look, my servant's going to be glorified exceedingly. Many are going to be amazed at him. They're going to see his form, face, no glory from men. His glory, meaning he actually has it, not being glorified in his form, means he doesn't have the very kind of glory you guys are talking about. Otherwise, hello, how could he possibly say this? Kill shot, game over. There's no recovery, everybody. Okay? How could he say right here that Jesus, the prophesied Messiah, would not have glory in his form if it's the glory you're talking about? How could it not be a glorious form? Right? It's over. They have failed in every way. There's just such bad interpretation, right? Just horrific stuff. Like Athanasius, Gregory of Nyssa and Nazianzus stuff, right? Just gone on all levels. The worst possible people you could rely on. We're supposed to be relying on the 12 apostles whose names are written on New Jerusalem, and you have these pagans' names in our face? Are you insane? They can't even see the glory because they're blinded, and he won't let them. That's how pathetic and lame they are. Why they make such stupid arguments. Look, everybody, it says you're going to see his servant glorified. So we know right there, it's not talking about the glory of the form. What kind of glory have we been talking about, everybody? And that the whole context of John 12 was talking about the glory of him as a man and being lifted up in death, connected to his resurrection. Has nothing to do with the glory Isaiah saw in the year King Uzziah died. He specifically limits seeing that glory to the year King Uzziah died. He's not talking about the future glory. It's not in the future. He's talking about the I saw. That's an aorist form. Right here in Isaiah 52:13, right before the quote in John 12 from Isaiah 53:1, it's future. And he's seeing it, his servant being it, being lifted up, but without it on his form. The very thing these pagans say John 12:41 is talking about with respect to Isaiah 6, right? Absolutely incredible. It's absolutely despicable what these people have done. And that's why I wanted to do this show. It not only makes it clear Isaiah saw and spoke about his glory in one verse, right? Just one verse. You get them both. Okay, we don't have to go from verse 1 to verse 9, 10, and it's not even talking about Jesus. It's talking about why they can't believe him. Right here before the quote that's actually made, hence the context leading up to the quote that's actually made, Isaiah 53:1. Isaiah sees his servant's glory and speaks about him. What now, pagans? Yeah, it's future, by the way. It's not limited to the year King Uzziah died, like yours is. Ha! Guess what? Game over. You lost. All money forfeited at your expense, and you deserve it. Anyone who supports Sam Shamoun and these pagan liars who are deceiving people and misrepresenting the Bible are a disgrace. If you ever dignify them on your platform, the people especially currently supporting him, right? They're the worst. How stupid would you have to be to fall for this kind of teaching from anybody? Whether it's Gregory Nazianzus, Athanasius, or Fat Sam. They're all pagans and liars and have nothing to do with the God of the Bible, as we're seeing very clearly. Aren't you? So it tells us very clearly in one verse exactly what we couldn't find in 10 verses, a whole chapter of Isaiah 6, seeing the glory and speaking about him clearly. Is that hard to see? Is that hard to understand? No, it's like right in front of your face. You'd have to be blind, right? Remind you of some pagans? Then the next verse, they'll be amazed. His form is going to be without glory from men. And thy glory shall not be honored by the sons of men. Okay, so if he's talking about the glory of Isaiah 6, did you see the kind of honoring Isaiah gave them? Yeah, there's no one who can resist that kind of scene of glory and not honor it. Not talking about that kind of glory. Isn't it obvious? Everybody. It is insane. A little note here. I've already said what I had to say, though. It's exactly what it says in verses 13 and 14. Exactly in John 12, as we read earlier, the Jews are blinded by Jesus' miracles due to his identity being hidden in an inglorious form, a form without glory from men. but that has glory, your glory, he doxa su, shall not be honored. Oh, but he's the Isaiah 6 glory in John 12? No, that's just you again. That's not reality again. Reality is right here again and here again. And we're not even at the quoted section that's going to make it even more clear, if it isn't already. Verse 15, thus shall many nations wonder at him, and kings shall keep their mouths shut, for they to whom no report was brought concerning him shall see, hopsantai, and they who have not heard shall consider. Guess what's next, everybody? The quotation that fulfilled everything we read in John 12. It wasn't Isaiah 6:10. No, that was given as the reason for why they can't believe. After he quotes this verse to tell us that everything John said was fulfilled right here. Isaiah 53:1. Yahweh, who has believed our report? To whom has the arm of Yahweh been revealed? Ape kaliphthe. Just like we read earlier. And the Lord shall reveal his holy arm in the sight of all nations. Oh, so they're going to see something. They're going to see something revealed, but will they believe? He's going to reveal his holy arm in sight of all the nations. My servant will be glorified exceedingly. His face will be without glory from men. His glory, heidaxasu, shall not be honored by the sons of men. If that was Isaiah 6 glory, that would not be true. They, the kings and nations that wonder at him, my servant who will be glorified exceedingly, not talking about Isaiah 6. It's the future, everybody. Right? It's talking future. Sorry about that. This is not past. Like Isaiah 6, King Uzziah died. This is future. They will see. Isaiah 53, Yahweh who is believed, to whom has the Lord's arm been revealed. Verse 2, we brought a report of a child. Before him, he is as a root. That's what I was talking about, Isaiah 6:13. In a thirsty land, he has no form or comeliness. Now let me ask you, Trinitarians, is that true? Did Jesus, when he came to earth as a man, have no form? Right, that's not true, is it? So that's not what it's talking about, is it? You know what it is talking about? The very thing you're lying about that he doesn't have right here. Look at it again. You see, you guys are pagans and you follow the dragon. Look, it says right here. That he's without glory from men. And he won't be honored. His glory won't be honored by the sons of men, even though they're seeing him glorified exceedingly. Do you all see both? I even made them color distinguished. This says, look, see my servant will be glorified exceedingly. Future, not past, not Isaiah 6, not year King Uzziah died. Future. Verse 14, they will be amazed. Future, they will see your face without glory. Future. Your glory, present, will not be honored by them. Future. Why? Because who will believe our report? To whom has it been revealed? We brought a child. He's a root. He has no form or comeliness. Okay? That translate to not is form to him. Or that's actually the scene part. No form or comeliness in the black is essentially saying the same thing as Isaiah 52:14, just a few verses earlier, right? It's not that he doesn't have any glory. He's just being dishonored like the rest says. So when it says, the Trinitarians like to say he's without glory from men. So how could he have seen his glory? Because that's the glory they're talking about, pagans. It says right here. It literally, we saw in John 12, he himself is talking about his glory being put to death. That's as a man, not Isaiah 6. Exact same thing right here. He will be glorified. Then, very next verse talks about how his form would be dishonored. The glory he has, they wouldn't honor. It's not talking about him not having glory to see. It's talking about the very glory they are seeing, which isn't the glory you're saying they see, because that's not possible. Why? First of all, they would be honoring him, right? They wouldn't be wondering at him in ways where he would not be honored by the sons of men. That glory would have them, like Isaiah, speechless and in need of immediate sin curing. Verse 2, Isaiah 53, right after everybody. Okay, we not only have all of this, okay, within a couple verses. This is not part of a verse. There's 3 verses and then the quote. Okay? And if we go from verse 10, that's 6 verses and then the quote. Trinitarians want us to believe John in 12:41 is talking about seeing glory in Isaiah 6:1, and the quote is from Isaiah 6:10, which isn't even about Jesus, but telling us why they can't believe him. Right? It's talking about a heavenly divine glory that would blow you away, being dishonored among the sons of men, that he doesn't have a glorious form that they would honor. And this is what he's describing as his glory, his form. They're even used synonymously. Look, right here. And we saw him. Is uk estin eidos. See? Or that could be not is form to him, and neither glory. Yes, that's right. That's the form part. I don't know why I have my colors mixed up. They don't match. So I was a little thrown off there. But this is seen. Kai edomen alton. So that matches here, but I got this mixed up and it threw me off. So this is actually uk estin eros altu. He has no form nor comeliness. Okay, we know that's not true, right? He has an actual form, right? But this is the form they're talking about. One that does not have glory and that is dishonored. Okay? It doesn't mean he doesn't have any glory any more than it means he doesn't have any form. It's just the language being used to describe the very form and glory it says he has and will have and be. Not from Isaiah 6 and not from the year King Uzziah died. So then look, it goes on. He had no form. We saw him. Okay, so he did have a form. You're talking about a certain kind of form. He had no form or glory. Okay, so he had a form and so you're talking about he was dishonored. He wasn't, in fact, it says right here, neither form nor glory, and his form, I don't know, the way Brenton translates that, I'm just looking at the translation and it doesn't quite line up. But maybe it's out of place. Yeah, I think right here actually is the he has no form or comeliness. Yeah, it is. Kai uk eken eidos ude kalos. Right? So that means that right here when it says that, it's talking about the kind of form, the beauty, kalos, right? Good, fine, beautiful. It's talking about that type of glory that would be honored as one of the sons of men who was a special type of physical specimen. That's the glory Isaiah is seeing and talking about. He's been doing it ever since at least Isaiah 52:10, talking about revealing his holy arm to the nations, that all will see the salvation that comes from him. Behold, my servant being glorified, doxos thesetai, exceedingly. That his form wouldn't be given glory from men, and his glory, he doxosu, wouldn't be honored by the sons of men. Many nations would look upon him and see him, but they wouldn't believe. So who would believe? To whom has the arm been revealed? A child is born. He's a root. He has no form, no comeliness, no form, no glory. But he has all those. It's just this type, this lowly, suffering type. Verse 3, his form was ignoble. To eros autu aitimon, without honor. and inferior, right? So right here it says his form. Right here it said he has no form. Uk eken eidos. This is very similar right here. Uk esten eidos autou, which is this, he has no form, which is what I thought it was saying. They're very similar. Basically saying the same thing, only this one uses kalos. So it's talking about the appearance, the type of appearance, the type of form, the type of glory. Literally says he has this form that it says he doesn't have right here. And it says that form is inferior to that of the children of men. He was a man in suffering, acquainted with the bearing of sickness, for his face turned from us and was dishonored, not esteemed. He bears our sins. He's pained for us, yet accounted him to be in trouble. Yet we accounted him to be in trouble and in suffering and affliction, right? They didn't see. He was wounded on account of our sins. He was bruised because of our iniquities. This is his form. This is his glory right here. Everything he's been talking about is his servant and the glory that he will have in the future. Right there. And even earlier, the revealing of the arm to all the nations. All of this is consistent and flowing perfectly from that point. Getting to this part right here. He was bruised. The chastisement of our peace upon him. By his bruises we were healed. All we as sheep have gone astray. Everyone has gone astray in his way, and the Lord Yahweh gave him up for our sins. And he, because of his affliction, do you see the Messiah anywhere, everybody? Are you having a hard time seeing Jesus anywhere in here? And Isaiah seeing his glory? It's like all over the place, right? Every single verse almost collectively has him seeing his glory and speaking about him. These guys are so blind, right? It's like a double fulfillment of Isaiah 6:10. We'll get back to it. Because of his affliction, opens not his mouth. He was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and as a lamb before the shearer is dumb, so he opens not his mouth. Verse 8, in his humiliation, his judgment was taken away. Who shall declare his generation? For his life was taken away from the earth. Because of the iniquities of my people, he was led to death. What did Jesus tell us all about in John 12? What was the glory of the Son of Man, the time, the hour that arrived that he was talking about, praying to the Father about, that had everything to do with what John 12:41 is talking about? Tell us. It's talking about him being glorified as a man and dying, being lifted up and resurrected. Has nothing to do with Isaiah 6:1 and the year that King Uzziah died and the supernatural divine glory was seen in vision or literal. Right? It's insanity is what it is. Verse 9, I'll give the wicked for his burial. What did Jesus say in John 12? Mary was preparing for his burial. To give the wicked for in exchange for his burial and the rich for his death. Everything being talked about his burial and his death. John 12. For he practiced no iniquity. What are we talking about here? Sounds like we're talking about the Messiah here. Are you having a hard time finding the Messiah anywhere? In Isaiah 52 to 53 to this point? Not even a little bit, right? It's like both of them in one verse and then all over the place together. Incredible how blind these people are. Verse 10, Yahweh also pleased to purge him from his stroke. If ye can give an offering for sin, your soul shall see a long-lived seed. Verse 11, Yahweh also is pleased to take away from the travail of his soul, to show him light, and to form him with understanding, to justify the just one who serves many well, and he shall bear their sins, right? Very clearly talking about Yahweh in distinction from the Messiah, the one in whose name he came, just like quoted from Psalm 118 in John 12, right? It's all over the place, everybody. They miss it. Verse 12, Isaiah 53, therefore he shall inherit many. He shall divide the spoils of the mighty, because his soul was delivered to death, and he was numbered among the transgressors, and he bore the sins of many, was delivered because of their iniquities. Right? Everybody. I mean, isn't it incredible how terrible these people are at interpreting the Bible? If it wasn't for their fake God and their loyalty to this pagan church and all this dragon doctrine, then they'd probably be like us and able to see this. So it's so easy to see. They're blinded, though, so we're like, wait a minute, what's going on? They're blinded. There's no other way to explain this. They're just seeing what they want to see. They believe in the Trinity and this later paganism. They can't see anything else. They're blinded. That's why they keep repeating the same things and ignoring all of our arguments, blinded. Okay, the Jewish religious leaders and priests and scribes, all of them, blinded. It shouldn't be too big of a surprise that today the people we're dealing with, same way, dress same way, do all the same things, go beyond what's written. It's the same dragon, different people. Look back at John 12. It's time to finish up, everyone. Let's get through this. Oh, we have people here. We have good people. Okay, let's get to it. Let's finish it up. We're almost done. Back to John 12. Okay, everyone. Have I shown you enough from these 4 chapters? John 12, Isaiah 6, Isaiah 52, Isaiah 53. To support my position that in John 12:41, the last verse, one of the last verses we read, we're going to go through part of it again. It's talking about Isaiah seeing the glory of the future Messiah, my servant. Look, see, my servant, he will be glorified. Your glory was dishonored. Do you see the reasons why I believe these 4 chapters of the Bible teach that in John 12:41, the glory Isaiah is said to have seen by John is the glory of the future human Messiah, that it cannot possibly be the past glory seen in the first year of King Uzziah's death, the supernatural heavenly glory, because again, that's past, and the glory John's talking about in relation to the Messiah, Isaiah 53, is future, and he speaks about him and sees that very glory of that future dishonored Messiah in life and in death and in resurrection all throughout John 12 and Isaiah 52 and 53. There was no question about it that in Isaiah 52 and 53, Isaiah saw the future glory and described it as if it were happening, right? So he's seen it, but it's happening. He's talking about, my servant will be this. And then he goes on to talk about it. There's no way connected with Isaiah 6 chronologically, or even the same type, because everything described there in Isaiah 52 and 53 that refers to the arm being seen by all the nations, right? The very arm quoted in Isaiah 53:1, quoted in John 12, that fulfills everything we read in John 12 outside of verse 40, that explains why they can't believe. Does everyone see how obvious it is that Isaiah saw the glory of the future Messiah and spoke about him all throughout Isaiah 52 and 53? Does everybody see why I believe that barely, if at all, do we have a similar seeing and speaking about, seeing glory and speaking about, different kind of glory, but seeing glory and speaking about in Isaiah 6? It wasn't even close, right? No comparison in terms of Isaiah 52, 53, clearly, just one verse, right? Isaiah 52, 13, I think, and 14, had them both. And then all throughout. No question, the best supported position that attempts to see both seeing glory and speaking about Jesus in the same context is that which uses Isaiah 52 and 53, and which accepts what John says about Isaiah 6:10, that it tells us why they can't believe him. Isaiah 53 and all that glory scene and stuff he did fulfills them not believing him. Why they can't believe after all that evidence? Isaiah 6:10. Now, here's the big question, Trinitarians. If the glory John says Isaiah saw is the heavenly glory, why weren't they convinced? Why were they? You mean to tell us John is talking about Isaiah seeing Jesus' heavenly glory and then speaking about him in terms of why they don't believe him, but they don't see the glory Isaiah says he saw? Is that really your position? That the people just didn't believe because Yahweh didn't let them believe? That it had nothing to do with them seeing his glory while a man? You would have to, right? Because if you're saying it's his glory as in the divine sense of Isaiah 6:1, you couldn't be saying that that's the glory they saw in John 12. Because it's nowhere there, right? It's not only not there, it's even more so not there as when we finish that up. Do you all understand? Trinitarians are telling us John's referring to Isaiah 6:1 through 10 and Isaiah 53:1 and identifying Jesus with that glory of Isaiah 6:1 and with the one they wouldn't believe. But at the same time, they're telling us none of those people who didn't believe actually saw his glory, the heavenly glory. He had it, they just couldn't see it. So they're saying the blinding is just the incarnation, I guess, right? When in fact, that's not what it's talking about at all. It's talking about the glory that they did see and account as of not even the same as their own glory. Not even worthy of that of the sons of men, it said. It said explicitly, behold, my servant will be glorified. Hello? Well, where did that happen? Where did Isaiah 52:13, Isaiah 53, we'll go to it just to make sure. Where does Isaiah 53, Isaiah 52:13, where does this happen, Trinitarians? So you mean to tell us, we all know where this happens, right? This is the glory he's talking about. You're saying it's the past glory of the year King Uzziah died of Isaiah 6. He's talking about seeing glory in the future. This is a future form right here. So Isaiah's seeing glory and speaking about someone in the future. He's not seeing glory of someone in the past and then speaking about someone in the future. If you think that, well, then you have to explain why that's not as profoundly evident as it is in Isaiah 52 and 53, that it's the one they're seeing in the future's glory, not the one in the past. It even uses the future form of the verb, not past. How could it be Isaiah 6:1? Okay, so everything here tells us that they saw the glory that was not honorable as one of the sons of men, right? It goes on to say he has no form or beauty, the kind of glory he's talking about. His form that he has, because he has a form and he has glory, is just ignoble. It's dishonored. It's not the kind of glory that would be exactly what you're telling us is in Isaiah 6:1. So very clearly, nobody saw that kind of glory in John 12. At most, you're just saying only the things Isaiah spoke about him apply in John 12, not the scene of the glory. That's literally what you Trinitarians are telling us. That the glory of Isaiah 6:1 is what John 12:41 is talking about, but it's never seen in John 12. What I'm telling you is the glory that John says Isaiah saw and spoke about him is exactly the same kind of glory that they see in Isaiah 52 and 53, and that's also quoted as the fulfillment of John 12, not the reason why they can't believe. Everything in Isaiah 52 talk about seeing him revealed and his glory. Glory of my servant you will see. Future, not past. Not my glory in the year King Uzziah died. No. So if we go back now and finish up with John 12, you can see very clearly, everyone, none of these events here that we reviewed, right? The hour coming for Jesus to be glorified in John 12, none of these matched anything but Isaiah 52 and 53, right? So I don't know. I'll have to get to see who's talking. We have some commenters. We'll get to them. So nothing in John 12 in any way is talking about the kind of glory described in Isaiah 6:1. We already agreed to this earlier. And it's very clear. And you could talk about it now if you don't think so. It's talking all about the miracles he did. It talks about when he's glorified in the future, that they remembered these things that were said about him. It talks about the hour for him to be glorified coming. It hasn't come yet. It's future, just like Isaiah said. It's for him to be glorified, his servant being glorified. See, right? Talks all about it. Then he talks about him being lifted up from the earth, how he's going to die, relating to him as the Son of Man, and then boom, he gets right to the quotations that fulfill everything we just reviewed, him being revealed as the Son of Man who would be glorified, all of this being fulfilled, just like Isaiah 52 said, my servant will be glorified. All of this is fulfilled, John says, in Isaiah 53:1. Then he makes it clear. Okay, the Greek is clear. It says the reason they couldn't believe is, again, Isaiah said, he blinded their eyes, hardened their heart, so they wouldn't see and be converted. Okay, that is exactly why he quotes Isaiah 6:10. If someone would like to give me another reason, I'll be open to it. The only other reason they can give is verse 41, right? They are saying Isaiah saw his glory in verse 1 of Isaiah 6 and then spoke about him, I guess, in verse 10. So they make this jump, 9-10 verses, that doesn't even make a direct parallel between seeing the glory, but that's implied based on the description of verse 1 of Isaiah 6. That Isaiah 6 nowhere explicitly describes Jesus, the future Messiah, and only has this verse related to the people and why they can't believe him, why they don't believe what Yahweh sends out, the report. So then, if we're going to say, well, we already know, right? We already know Isaiah 52, 53, as we've seen, provides the best context for seeing the glory and speaking about Jesus. The whole context of verses 1 through 40 of John 12 only involve his burial, him being glorified in death, and being resurrected. That's it. There is no other glory being referred to or described in every single verse leading up to verse 41. And they all describe the very glory Isaiah sees in Isaiah 52 and 53, together with numerous immediate and contextual references clearly to Jesus. Totally unlike Isaiah 6. So, we would also have to believe that those who didn't believe had the arm of Yahweh revealed to them in this glory of Isaiah 6, right? It doesn't even make sense, but they didn't believe, right? It's very clearly, in my view, talking about Jesus appearing as a man, as the servant of Yahweh, and being glorified in an inglorious way by not having the very kind of glory Trinitarians, or even, I would say, people who believe he was like a glorified looking human being. He wasn't that at all, according to Isaiah. And nevertheless, that glory that was seen, that was not honored among men, that God himself would be seen, idu, and glorified, that's as a man. There's no way to make a connection with Isaiah 6 there, contextually leading right up to verse 1 of 53. It's all about him in the future. It's all about him as a man. It's all describing his inglorious suffering state that Isaiah saw as his glory, that wasn't seen as glorious by the sons of men, but that was his glory, he doxasu, and spoke about him. Very clearly, very repeatedly. And let me just show you this as well. I have one other item I want to bring up here. You can see very clearly, I had this also kind of done, right? You can see, pull myself out, this comparison here, right? If you look at Isaiah 6:1, Isaiah 53, 13 and 14, 52, and John 12, 41. As I mentioned earlier, in John 12, 41, you have the verb, an aorist form, past referring verb form, Aden, and the object in the accusative, tein doxa autou. Tein doxin is the accusative, the glory. In Isaiah 52, 13 through 14, you also have an imperative second person sight verb related to the same verb this is related to, and the future verb doxazo, future form of the verb doxazo, that involves seeing the Messiah's glory. Directly related to the action of seeing him being glorified. Just like the verb in John 12 is directly related to seeing his glory. In Isaiah 6:1, you don't have that. As I said, you do have the aorist form of Adon, I saw, past. Again, totally impossible to be this, but this directly relates to this or this. So it can only be this, since only this can relate to this. Here he sees the Lord, ton kyrion, not tein doxon. You see that, everyone? They often lie and make it seem like these are the same things. They're not. And that's important because they like to emphasize this verbal link that isn't apparent in that way, even though associatively and contextually you can get the parts, right? Tes, doxes, autou. So yes, it's there. It's not an accusative. It's not a direct object of the verb edon, but it's there being described. Here, the relationship is more clear. And even in verse 14, right? Adoxese, apo anthropon, right? So he wouldn't be glorified from men. Tol edosu kai he doxasu. Your glory, your form. It's talking about his visible form, his physical glory. They're even used in parallel right there, form and glory. Ta edosu he doxasu. So Trinitarians just don't often understand what's happening throughout Isaiah 52 and 53. And the only thing they see, because they're obsessed with the Trinity, is this. That somehow allows them to make this contextual leap to verse 10 of chapter 6, even though Messiah is nowhere spoken of explicitly. And verse 10 is only quoted according to John to explain how it is they can't believe. Whereas right here, right? I mean, Isaiah 52 is very clearly complementary to 1241 in the descriptive way in which glory is seen and the type of glory that's described all throughout John 12, right? That we saw. That's the exact same kind of glory Isaiah describes seeing in Isaiah 52, 53. Not Isaiah 6. That is not anywhere described in John 12. And if you think so, show me. Let's finish this up. John 12, the rest of it, it's over, right? All right. We left off right here, verse 43, and then we'll look at the chat. People are going insane. Some people are going, let's see. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll come to you. Verse 43, we left off right here. For they love the approval of people rather than the approval of God. Cowards. Read Revelation 21, 22. That's who they are. Can't help them. Verse 44, Jesus cried out and said, the one who believes me does not believe only in me, but also in him that sent me. Verse 45, and the one who sees me sees him who sent me. So right there, we once again have a sense in which visible glory is in play. We're not talking about the spiritual glory here of Isaiah 6:1. Verse 46, I have come as a light into the world, so that no one who believes in me will remain in darkness. If anyone hears my teachings and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. The one who rejects me and does not accept my teachings has one who judges him, the word which I spoke. See? The word from the word is what will condemn a person. In other words, words are actual words at times and actually spoken by actual humans or spirit beings who aren't abstractions reified as, abstractions reified as if they're a word that's spoken. No, it's different, and it's proven right here by the word, by the way, that will judge him on that last day. Verse 49, for I did not speak on my own, but the Father himself who sent me has given me a commandment as to what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal life. Therefore, the things I speak, just as the Father told me. It's temporal. It means he's not omniscient. He had to learn, which Trinitarians don't believe. That's what he's saying. Now, compare this with John 7, verse 14. When it was now the middle of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple area and began to teach. What did he just say in John 12? This is before that, but he says it. They complement each other. He who does not accept my teachings has one to judge him. I don't speak my own. Father told me what to say. John 7:14. He went up, he began to teach. Jews were astonished. How has this man learned when he hasn't been educated? Verse 16, Jesus said to them, my teaching is not my own, but his who sent me. Verse 17, if anyone is willing to do his will, he'll know about the teaching, whether it's from God or I'm speaking from myself. Right there, right? I mean, this contradicts everything in Isaiah 6 because the one speaking there is the one who directly speaks for himself. All throughout saying who's going to do this, who's going to do that, who's going to declare our report. Jesus could not possibly be here or elsewhere the one in Isaiah 6. The one in Isaiah 6 is the Father right here. It's so obvious. Verse 18, the one who speaks, I highlighted it, speaks from himself, seeks his own glory. But he who is seeking the glory of one who sent him, he is true, and there's no unrighteousness in him. He who speaks from himself seeks his own glory. That cannot be untrue about the God of Isaiah 6, right? I mean, he's literally glorified in front of everybody. Everything is about him. Everything is filling the place with his glory, just like they tell us, only they have the wrong glory, right? Says right here, he's not seeking his own glory. The very one you say is glorifying himself in Isaiah 6, it's over. No, this is the one who doesn't seek his own glory of Isaiah 52, 53, because that's what fulfills John 12. Isaiah 6, remember everybody, does this seem like someone who doesn't seek his own glory? Right? I mean, he's lifted up. He's got all these heavenly beings. They're calling out multiple times of how holy he is. The whole earth is full of his glory. The place is shaking, filling with smoke. He has to be healed just to stay among all these people. And then he says, who's going to go? Who will I send? If it's the same glory, Trinitarians, one would not deny seeking the same glory. Jesus is the one sent by that glory. Remember what we just read? The end, John 7, right here. He who seeks the glory of the one who sent him. So these glories are not the same, everybody. Isn't that clear? If you're seeking your own glory, which Jesus says right here he's not, that is different from seeking the glory of the one who sent him, which he is, right? Isaiah 6 has nothing to do with someone not seeking their own glory, right? It has to do with people being sent, seeking Isaiah 6:1's God's glory. The very thing we see Jesus doing right here and in Isaiah 52 and in Isaiah 53, John 12. Everybody, you know how many more times we're going to have to dial this up for these people. You know, probably it'll never end. But hopefully I've given you another video to select from when it comes to dealing with Trinitarians so that you can explain to them like I did to you. I maybe took a little longer because I reviewed a bunch of things and talked a lot because I don't get to talk to you a lot. Just read the chapters. Read John 12. Then go to Isaiah 6. Okay, John 12:41, after we read it, it's all talking about his human glory, all talking about them not seeing it, not being revealed to them, and why they don't believe. You read Isaiah 6, talks about seeing God's glory, heavenly glory, and then verse 10 tells us why they can't believe. Read Isaiah 52:53, you have Isaiah seeing and talking about the Messiah's glory multiple times, including both in one verse, Isaiah 52:13. Behold, see, look, same verb, different form, imperative. My servant will be glorified. Future, totally disconnected from Isaiah 6:1's glory in the past, and perfectly fulfills the future of John 12. Not just by verbal form, but by all the descriptions we read as well. Now, Trinitarians, anybody, what did I say tonight? Anything, one or more, that is wrong? And why do you believe you're right? Let's hear it. It's your time. All right, I'm gonna scroll up here. Just make sure I didn't miss anyone. Hey, everybody, check the comments after today. Any Trinitarian who wants to come here and listen to a 2.5 hour video or whatever, me reading all the relevant chapters and all the relevant information. You want to come here, tell me I'm wrong and you're right? Can you at least just show me one? You don't have to write a big, we don't need to be buried by your writing, which is all wrong and lies to everybody. You can't point out one simple flaw in a couple sentences or a paragraph. You need to find a new vocation, right? You're not going to be relevant for this discussion. I unloaded a ton of information that supports my position about John 12:41, directly relating to Isaiah seeing the future Messiah's glory and speaking about him, which is fulfilled in Isaiah 53:1, exactly like John said, and supported by the entire context leading up to Isaiah 53:1 and after it. And the only reason John says Isaiah 6:10 is quoted, after telling us Isaiah 53:1 fulfills everything in the prior verses, including the Messiah's future glorification as the Son of Man being lifted up. Yeah, I don't believe any other interpretation accounts for all of the best information except for mine, which sees that glory, what was said about him, relating directly to Isaiah 52 and 53, supported by the entire context of John 12, and which directly oppose the context of Isaiah 6, other than the verse that's quoted that's not related to the fulfillment of John 12. It explains why they can't believe, which is the same reason Trinitarians can't believe. So don't be disheartened when you see that today, as disheartening as it may be. God's blinded their minds. He's blinded their hearts. And if they can't read these chapters like we did and see what the best option is for this interpretation of John 12:41, there's probably not much you're going to be able to do to help them, because they're not blind in a literal sense. They're blind in a spiritual sense. So they can read all day, won't understand it at all. Hopefully you did, though. And if you don't think I made a good case for my position, or that the Trinitarian or Watchtower position is better than what I just presented to you, I'll be happy to have either a live conversation or an in writing conversation that's more extended for people who can show me they're listening to what I'm saying and explaining at least with some brevity where I'm wrong. Okay, you don't have to give me everything, but if you can't even give me one or two or a couple, I'm probably right. And you might want to think about that. With that having been said, let me just make sure. Did I miss anybody? I don't know. I'll find out. Okay, Cato. Good to have you, Cato. Although, the firstborn thing. Cato seems on board. Okay, Cato, maybe that's a firstborn thing. We got a little off there. Yeah, we got off on the wrong foot, Cato. That happens. I don't know you. And I get all kinds of people. I know you know this, right? And I have to kind of err on the side of you're not here to help us, right? Either it's real clear you're here to like support what we do, or I have to err on no, you're not, and then progressively evaluate you from there. Let me just see. Good to see you, Czar. I'm just reading the comments. I'm reading for something I didn't cover. If I didn't cover something, then I want to hear that. Okay. So Cato 229 says, if John quotes Isaiah talking about the Lord as being Jesus, and you say it is only the Father, doesn't that imply John is Trinitarian? No. If John quotes Isaiah talking about the Lord being Jesus, I don't see that he does that. We saw just the opposite, right? In John 12, we saw John, the context leading up to verse 41, quoted Psalm 118 that says Jesus comes in the name of Yahweh. So there was nothing in John other than, unless again, you're going to assume your conclusion. If you're assuming that John is talking about Isaiah 6:1 in John 12:41, well then your question makes a little more sense. But we're not doing that. Like I just went through, we're going through, and maybe this was earlier. We don't assume that at all. It's not even a good assumption, and it doesn't make sense in light of the context of John 12, I don't think. But I don't see that he quotes Isaiah talking about Jesus being Yahweh. Not in the sense it seems you're talking about. So I don't think John's implying Trinitarianism in any way. So we have the truth always unfiltered 622 went completely insane, right? Let me see. Well, I know he's kind of coming around a little bit, but he made some comments that are hard to. I don't know. It's all. I don't always know what you guys are referring to unless you make it clear. So he says fake ASS Bible, and I don't know if he's what he's. I don't know if he's referring to the New American Standard or the New World Translation. I can't tell. So I'm going to move on there. Unless he says anything else. Truth always unfiltered. We'll see. I will not carry out my fierce anger, nor will I devastate Ephraim, for I am God, not a man. That's true. And now you're talking about hypostatic union. Truth always unfiltered. No, you can't be. You cannot have two natures in one person. That's not possible. Just like creation ex nihilo is not possible. A nature is assigned to a person, right? They're never separate in reality, just in fantasy. So every person, every spirit, every mind has a nature, and that's it. Your nature corresponds to your existence. So your mind controls your nature. That's why my mind can tell my hand to move right now. But if you take my mind away from my body, it'll never move. So my mind is capable of willing movement within my body. God's spirit can do that too. He can will movement of his spirit and even send his spirit with information, something Sam has no concept about, which is what inspires prophets, what delivers information like revelations when he gives Jesus, for example, his Holy Spirit. If you listen to Sam and these people that support him, you're basically the walking dead. And we'll try to help you, but if you're that low level, you haven't figured out how far gone all these people are, and that having two natures as one person is impossible, stupid, and not biblical, just go somewhere else. Go to the Trinitarians and talk about all this impossible stuff all you want. Go talk about this two nature, one person, or how is God three persons and only one mind when a mind is a person? So you have to be a modalist if you think God's only one mind. It's all insanity. You guys are just lying to everybody and making stuff up. Okay? It's beyond what's written, so it's false. And it's not even consistent, so we can't even say it's true by extension. Game over. Yeah, so truth always unfiltered, 622, not happening. Trinity is true, and Jesus both God and human. That is two persons plus Holy Spirit. Okay, that's it. You can assume that if you want, Chris Lucas. Hey, Joker. Who's he talking about? Plus Holy Spirit, persons, four persons. Okay, yeah, maybe. They do kind of imply that because they personalize God when they really mean it in an impersonal way as the divine nature. That is never a meaning of the word God in the Bible. Neither is person without a nature. Once again, this is all just made up stuff. Anytime they start talking multiple natures in one person, it's just made up stuff. Anytime they start talking about multiple persons in one nature, unless it's a Siamese trimese twin, they're making stuff up. It's not possible for a father and son in any kind of actual generational sense. That's also made up. There's no such thing as eternal generation. It's just a way for them to lie about what they just said, which they do a lot. So if you want to promote insanity, right, flat earth, creation ex nihilo, two natures, one person, this is all impossible. This is all disproven and shows you're stupid, okay? So we won't really spend much time with you. We do that with Sam because he's a spectacle, but he's also dumb in every one of those ways and more. Okay. I'm trying to see if anyone has anything. I spent almost 3 hours or so. Did I say anything wrong in any of those 4 chapters? Sam? Any of his ridiculous followers? Nothing? Oh, then I guess I'm doing okay in my interpretation of these things, right? Insanity. Chris cast the Protestant view. He's very active. But he doesn't seem to believe in the Trinity. But Chris, he's made many comments. So again, like if Sam or any of his followers, we have Chris Lucas, the Protestant view here, making all kinds of comments. You're not like taking issue with what I said necessarily. If you guys can't do this, you're not qualified. Okay, I just literally sat here and spoke for 3.5 hours or so, and I read all 4 of these subject chapters and applied them according to my view. And if you can't take issue with anything I said to suggest that it is inferior to another view, then you're taking issue. Hey, it's time to come on board. Right? It's time to join us and get moving and leave this dragon church where you found it. You'll be much happier. You'll have fewer associates that you know now, but you'll suffer for righteousness' sake, right? Just like the master. Do it. Right? Don't be a coward. We know what happens to cowards, right? Reveille. Don't do it. Chris Lucas still trying to understand whether Trinitarianism. Just keep going. We have our view here. We believe in one God the Father, but that the sons of God are gods without breaking Scripture, whether they are used by God or not, according to Jesus in John 10, 30 through 36, quoting Psalm 82. So we follow what he says. He's the only begotten God. We've seen his glory, the out of an only begotten, not the glory of God the Father, the one God, because you can't do that. So, Trinitarians just rely a lot on later councils and creeds and Middle Platonism and later Platonism to support their pagan view of God, which isn't taught in the Bible. All right, but keep thinking about it, Chris Lucas. Right? Keep learning. Thank you, Betsy. Choker, very nice. You got it all. I can tell. I know who gets this. I know who like is dialed into the point where it's like, oh my, boom, right? Some are like just locked in on that level, and when they see what I'm seeing and it comes together, it's just like this jewel you can't help but appreciate. It's so clear to have to understand the wisdom of God we get from studying these things and exposing these liars and their paganism, right? I hate to have to waste the time, but it's not a waste of time when we look at it in that light. But they should know better by now, so unfortunate we have to do this ever. These accounts are clear. They were never this confusing, and they never should have been distorted like this, requiring us to take all this time and effort away from helping the poor and the lowly just so we can correct a bunch of lames who believe in a later God and claim the Bible supports what they say even though it never does, right? So we go through all these interpretive exercises just so they can try to show us what isn't there, right? It's just crazy. Very nice stuff. Good to see you, the Codex Archive. Okay, I really think we took care of business tonight, everybody. I believe I accomplished my objective to represent as clear as possible the evidence from John 12, Isaiah 6, Isaiah 52, and Isaiah 53 that supports my understanding of John 12:41, that the glory John says Isaiah saw and spoke about there is the glory Isaiah clearly saw and spoke about with regard to the future Messiah's suffering, life, and death and resurrection that is not in any way temporally or qualitatively related to the glory seen in Isaiah 6:1. Contextually, the two are completely different. The reason those two chapters are quoted in John 12 are completely different. And the glory described in Isaiah 52:53 and all throughout John 12, Son of Man being glorified, the hour having come, Father save me, are all the same type of human glory from the time of his suffering on earth through his death and resurrection that we see described. All right, Isaiah 52:53, John 12, they're all the same. None of them are talking about the kind of glory seen in Isaiah 6:1, which is why that chapter is not quoted as the fulfillment of John 12. So I hope it's been helpful to all of you. Good to see all of you. I think I'll be back next Friday for another podcast. Podcast number 3. Game over, everybody. Game over podcast number 3 returns next Friday. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful week, that you're blessed, and that you continue in your knowledge and understanding of these things. Don't worry, it's not always so easy, but I hope I've made it easier for you, because I wanted to give you something that I think brought everything together in a better way than before, and that brings something a little bit new, highlights some important aspects of my understanding of these texts, so that you can form your own opinion based on the best available evidence. With that having been said, I will see you all Friday for our podcast number 3 of the Game Over podcast. I like that name. In Jesus' name. So again, may you be blessed and protected until then, and I will see you all soon. So again, may you be blessed and protected until then,